Hello, welcome to the Fanfic Majesty. 5PIW. Chapter 121. Luffy's Progress. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Whitebeard. A group of cadres from the Tangji family surrounded them. However, after seeing Whitebeard, everyone trembled, and there was a look of fear on their faces, and the cold sweat continued to slip. They dare to stop because they are loyal to Brother Ming. But being loyal does not mean not afraid. On the contrary. Several people fear Whitebeard more than anyone. Because Whitebeard has too many names. New World 4 Emperors. King of the World. The strongest man in the world. A wicked person even more terrible than evil spirits. In the face of such a strong man, the cadres of the Don Quixote family do not have any confidence. Doflamingo's men. Marco put his hands in Kabuto, and didn't seem to care. It's not that he is arrogant, but that there is really no need to care too much. Because even if Doflamingo came in person, he couldn't help him, let alone these miscellaneous fish. Goo la la la, Straw Hat Boy, leave these people to you, just to see the recent results. Whitebeard smiled calmly. These cadres in front of him are nothing to Marco, let alone the strongest in the world. But no matter how weak the enemy is, there is value. Just can act as Luffy's opponent, look at Luffy's practice results. Leave it to me, Uncle Whitebeard. Luffy chuckled. Fists shook, armament hockey enveloped the entire arm. After a period of practice and battle, he has mastered the use of armed color, and now he lacks actual combat training. Advertisement. With that, he rushed away quickly. Stop them. Mahabe roared and rushed up first. The other cadres glanced at each other and immediately formed a square formation with the toy soldiers and approached the Whitebeard trio. Look at me. Luffy laughed. The fist wrapped in armed color swept toward the toy soldier. These soldiers have become ordinary people, even with guns. No matter how Luffy is one of the supernovae, and has been taught by Whitebeard, his strength has greatly increased. Dealing with a group of toy soldiers is not a problem at all. Boom. One punch fell. The solid ground was crushed by a punch, causing cracks. The toy soldiers around were also lifted out. Oh. Bravo. Luffy's eyes lit up, and tears almost shed. In order to learn armament hockey, he did not know how much he suffered and how many beatings. Seeing the results now, there is no reason not to be excited. Goo la la la, boy with a straw hat, you are a rubber man, and the armed color can be combined with rubber fruit's abilities. Whitebeard pointed to the side. The combination of armed color and fruit ability. Luffy looked dumbfounded. What a fool. Marco clutched his forehead, but he patiently explained. Daddy means that when you use armament hockey, you can also use the fruit ability, so that you can maximize the power of the armed color. Oh, I got it. Luffy slammed his left fist on the palm of his right hand. A sudden enlightenment appeared on his face. He shook his fist immediately and launched an attack quickly. Shoo. Advertisement. Rubber fruit's abilities were used, and the arms flew out like bullets, sweeping away the toy soldiers around. Bravo. Luffy was very happy. Then I am more excited to play around. Rubber rocket launchers, rubber machine guns, rubber stamps, rubber volcanoes. All kinds of messy skills are used. Originally, the power of these skills was not very good. But under the blessing of the armed color, the power has risen sharply. Ordinary toy soldiers couldn't stop them at all, they were knocked to the ground by Luffy in just a few minutes. How can the Straw Hat Boy who came from the first half of the Grand Line have such strength? The cadres were dumbfounded. They know Luffy very well. After all, Luffy participated in the War of the Top and the War of the Island of Celebration, and his name has been spread throughout New World. But in the eyes of most people, Luffy is just a lucky kid with little strength at all. The reason why it became famous for New World is entirely because of Whitebeard. What a few people didn't expect was, Luffy will have this kind of strength. Hee. Next it's your turn. Luffy looked at Dellinger and the others. He raised his arm as he spoke, and then kept blowing into the arm. The originally slender arm swelled countless times in an instant, and armament hockey was spread all over it. Take it. Luffy's legs bounced like springs. After rushing to a height of more than 10 meters in the sky, he fell quickly. What? Not good. Dangerous. Hurry up and avoid it. Absolutely can't be hit by this trick. The cadres were frightened. Advertisement. Faced with such a huge arm, and armament hockey was spread all over the arm, where they dared to carry it hard, they fled in a hurry. But unfortunately, Luffy is faster. The huge arm slammed down like an iron body. Boom. There was a loud roar. Ultimate's power exploded, raging around the area. The ground could not withstand this kind of force, and it burst in an instant, creating cracks, and countless stone chips flew like bullets, drawing white marks in the air. The Don Quixote cadre directly below was hit directly. What? Screams sounded. Dellinger and the others flew across, crashed into the walls of the houses on both sides, fell to the ground and were seriously injured, and could no longer get up. One strike. The way of master armament hockey, Qian Li Hao flew. With just one blow, Dellinger, who had a bounty of tens of millions, was killed in seconds. How can it be? Dellinger, Mahabe and others were full of horror. I thought that with his few people, even if it was not Whitebeard's opponent, he could block 10 minutes. But who can think of it? Whitebeard didn't even make a move. Just a Luffy, kill them these cadres in seconds. Not bad, Marco praised. Being able to master armament hockey in just over a month, and also using his abilities, this kind of talent is already pretty good. Goo la la la. Grow up, boy with a straw hat. Whitebeard laughed loudly. Know that the current Luffy is much better than the Luffy of this period in the original book. Maybe it won't take 2 years to reach the level of the original 2 years later. Chapter 122. Brother Ming Who Can't Escape. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. 10 minutes later. A group of toy soldiers and Don Quixote family cadres were completely resolved by Luffy. The three of Whitebeard walked unimpeded in the direction of the palace. But there is no one in the palace for a long time. Ming Jie and a group of senior cadres of the Don Quixote family have long gone to the seaside through the secret tunnel. Just leave like this. Pika's eyes were full of dismay. Dressrosa, but they have spent a lot of effort to rule the country. Now he flees like a bereaved dog, making him angry and unwilling. Damn Whitebeard, we have to avenge this grudge sooner or later. Toripal said harshly. Buddha whistling. Don't worry, Kaido will form an alliance with Anti and Golden Lion in at most half a month, and then this kingdom will be ours. Brother Ming laughed and didn't panic at all. In its view, as long as the three people form an alliance, no matter how strong Whitebeard is, it is impossible to be an opponent. So they just left temporarily and will come back sooner or later. Kaido and Anti are going to form an alliance. At this 853 hour, an exclamation sounded. Who? Ming Jie, who was still laughing, was taken aback, his face changed drastically, and he looked in the direction of the voice. I saw a young man with a long sword and a hat on the left. It's you, Luo. Toripal was stunned, then sternly shouted. Why are you in Dressrosa? Advertisement. What you said just now is true. Luo ignored Toripal, but looked at Brother Ming, his tone full of eagerness. How will you be here? Brother Ming's face was gloomy, and then he thought of something. Or you have already taken refuge in Whitebeard. The reason why Whitebeard came to Dressrosa is because of you. He was still wondering why Whitebeard would suddenly attack himself. After all, many people participated in the top war, not just oneself. So he and Whitebeard are not feuding. But, after seeing Luo, he instantly understood the matter. It must be Luo who took refuge in Whitebeard, so what happened now? ABFA, you haven't answered my question yet. Luo stared at Brother Ming. Howl, whistle, it seems so. Brother Ming laughed wildly, but there was endless coldness hidden in the laughter. You should know that Luo K was personally trained, but now he brought Whitebeard to crusade him, making him feel betrayed. But he was a hero after all, and immediately suppressed his anger. Looking at Luo, sneered. It's okay to tell you, Kaido will soon form an alliance with the Ant and Golden Lion. Although Whitebeard is known as the world's strongest, it will not be the opponent of the three. He is not at all afraid of this news leaking. Because of the news of the Four Emperors Alliance, it is impossible to hide it. Perhaps in 1 or 2 days, this news will spread throughout the New World and become well known. Damn it. Luo's face changed drastically. Howl, howl, howl. To blame Whitebeard for being too strong. His strength has caused the fear of all forces in the New World. Everyone wants Whitebeard to die. Brother Ming laughed wildly. Advertisement. In this world, no one wants to have a king of the world. After all, the appearance of the king of the world means that someone is above himself and may destroy himself at any time. This is intolerable to all forces. Luo took a deep breath and suppressed the surprise in his heart. Daddy will definitely be fine, so before that, I will solve you first. Hey, it seems that you have forgotten that everything you learn is taught by me. Brother Ming's face was gloomy, and there was a sneer in his mouth. When the other cadres heard this, they immediately stood up and surrounded Xiao Luo. Knowing that if you want to leave here, you must fight quickly, otherwise it will alarm Whitebeard, and it will be difficult to leave again. Sure enough, you didn't expect it. Before a few people were surrounded, an abrupt laughter sounded. Brother Ming and the others were startled, and suddenly turned to look. I saw Beasta, known as the Foil, striding over from a distance. I said why there is no one in the palace. It turns out that you came here through a secret tunnel. Fortunately, you were prepared, otherwise you will let this guy run away. Beasta smiled. Luo, I am familiar with this place, and I also know his character, knowing that he will leave here. Luo Shen said. He used to be Ming's subordinate. Knowing that Ming is a hero, he will definitely run away after hearing the news of Whitebeard's arrival. So rushed here for the first time. Sure enough, I found Brother Ming. I have already notified Dad and they will come soon. Beasta nodded. What? Brother Ming's face changed drastically, and then roared. Hurry up. Advertisement. The power of the Dongji River Germans is not Whitebeard's opponent. Once Whitebeard comes, they will undoubtedly die. Go to hell. Pika screamed and rushed out first. The huge body slammed on the ground, then raised his fist, brought a violent break through the air, and slammed it down at Luo. Hey, Luo, solve them. Beasta laughed, although Whitebeard was notified. But he never thought of letting his father take the shot. Because in his opinion, the so-called Don Jihad family has only that little strength, and he can stop it by himself. Coupled with Luo, it is not impossible to defeat Ming Jie and others. Clear. Luo rushed up for the first time. Seeing such a high-spirited Luo, Beasta laughed, and did not hesitate, drew out the long sword in his hand. His strength is much stronger than Luo. With the swing of the arm, the long sword made a sharp light. Stabbed. The piercing sound exploded. The huge slash tore the earth and cut off towards Brother Ming. Brother Ming, who just wanted to shoot Luo, shivered all over, retreated quickly, and then stared at Beasta. Knowing that Beasta is not a weak person. His strength is not weaker than himself, even above himself. If you don't solve Beasta, and you want to leave Dressrosa, it's just a foolish dream. Thinking of this, his eyes were cold. Quickly avoiding the slash and rushing towards Beasta. 26%. Chapter 123. Desperate Ming Brother. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The arms waved, causing a violent breaking sound. Several threads invisible to the naked eye emerged, shimmering in the sun with an icy luster. Beasta's eyes condensed, and he immediately raised his sword to block it. Clang. The sound of gold and iron sounded. The thin silk thread hit the long sword like a sharp weapon, and the long sword slammed into it. Doflamingo see this, attack faster. Silk threads appeared one after another, attacking from different angles. Clang clang. The voice kept ringing. However, Ming Jie, who continued to attack, did not rush forward, but kept retreating. After a while, he retreated to the beach. Everything I lost today, I will definitely regain it. Ming Jie's face was extremely gloomy, then looked at Torpal and others, and said with difficulty, now I give the final order, for the Don Quixote family, you will help me stop the Whitebeard pirates with your lives. That's right, he is going to abandon Torpal and other senior cadres. Because he understands. Whitebeard is coming here, with his own strength, he can't solve the Beasta instantly. It's just a waste of time to keep entangled. Once let Whitebeard arrive. I must die. To survive, he can only abandon the so-called family. He grabbed the sugar and jumped up. He jumped directly onto the boat docked at the beach and immediately controlled the rudder, trying to escape. Dover. Torpal's expression stagnated. Advertisement. Unexpectedly, Ming Jie would abandon himself and choose to escape alone. Hey, it's really decisive, to abandon your subordinates in order to survive. Beasta sneered. He has this kind of character. As long as he can achieve his goal, he can do whatever it takes. Luo shook his head, not surprised. He knows what Brother Ming is. It's a complete hero. The so-called family and unity are just a means for the other side to win subordinates. Back then Ming Jie could kill even his closest brother, not to mention the senior cadres like Torpal. But it's a little troublesome. Beasta frowned. Although the cadres of the Don Quixote family are not very good, they are not waste materials. It is okay to stop them for a few minutes. And these few minutes is enough time for Ming Jie to set sail. Dover, are you going to abandon us? Torpal panicked, his face full of horror. Don't forget, why the Don Quixote family is strong again. Are you going to disobey my orders? Or you don't want to serve the Don Quixote clan at all? Brother Ming, who had already turned the bow, turned his head abruptly after hearing this, his eyes filled with coldness. As Luo said, in order to survive, he can abandon anything. Including the so-called family. So at this moment, Torpal and others are no longer family members, but tools to keep him alive. Dover. Torpal looked incredulous. Shut up. Diamante on the side suddenly yelled and stared at Torpal. This is the order of the young master, do you want to disobey it? He knows the fate of staying. But he didn't care. It would be an honor for him to die for the Don Jihad family and the young master. Advertisement. So he doesn't allow anyone to disobey this order. Let us do one last thing for the young master. Pika shouted sharply. Like Diamante, he did not complain about Ming Jie's order, and was willing to give up his life for Ming Jie. I will repay your hatred. Ming Jie whispered. After that, he no longer hesitated, and drove the ship away. Fleeing. Luo saw this face change drastically, and immediately rushed out. But before he ran a few steps, he was stopped. Young master will one day soon coming to New World, so before that, I will never allow anyone to hurt young master. Diamante blocked the front, then punched. At the same time, Pika and the others rushed towards Beasta and stopped Beasta. Really loyal. Beasta couldn't help sighing, then shook his head. But it's useless, because the old man has already come. Zero seeking flowers, zero. The words fell, and the sound of footsteps came from a distance. Don Quixote's senior cadre looked over. I saw a tall figure with a crooked crescent beard, walking step by step. Seeing this man, all the cadres trembled. Whitebeard. The man known as the strongest in the world finally arrived. Fear rushed into my heart, making Diamante and the others sweating coldly. I didn't expect Whitebeard to come so soon. Father. Beasta greeted. Goo la la la. Brother Doflamingo, that boy, abandoned his men and fled alone. Whitebeard looked at the ships at sea and smiled. It is really shameless to do such a thing to survive. Point 0. Advertisement. Marco was disgusted. Uncle Whitebeard, are you watching Doflamingo escape? Luffy was anxious. Papa. Luo wanted to speak but stopped. He came here to take revenge on Brother Ming. If you let Ming Jie escape this time, it won't be that simple next time you want to catch the other party. Ha 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 ha. Since the old man is here, he won't let that guy escape. Beasta laughed. Yes, the sea is Daddy's place. Marco also didn't care. As long as Ming is still at sea, it is impossible to leave under Whitebeard's nose. Goo la la la. Don't worry, that kid can't escape. Whitebeard smiled calmly. As soon as the words fell, he violently raised his broad knife and slammed it heavily on the ground. Then he raised his fist sideways and bombarded the air. Boom. There was a loud noise. The air was directly shattered by a punch, and cracks were created, spreading wildly around. The originally calm sea suddenly rioted. A terrifying wave was set off and rushed toward the island. The ship traveling in the sea trembles violently, and then rushes to the shore with huge waves. What? The face of Ming Jie on the boat changed drastically. He looked towards the shore fiercely, and then saw a figure that he least wanted to see. Despair came to my heart. He knew that he couldn't escape. And. Chapter 124. Break my brother with a punch. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Wow. The water waves kept rolling. The ship was also hit on the shore by huge waves, and with a loud noise, thick smoke billowed. Hey, I want to run away under my father's nose, it's a foolish dream. Beasta sneered. As long as you get to the sea, that's Dad's place, and no one can escape. Marco seemed to have expected it. Little Lord. Pika and others exclaimed, wanting to come and help. But before he took a step, he was blocked by Luo and couldn't move forward at all. Damn it. Brother Ming got up from the boat and looked at Whitebeard. His face was extremely ugly. Whitebeard, we should have no grudges. Kaido has joined forces with the ant, ready to take action against you. You crusade me to kill me at most, and there is no actual interest in 8 or 70, so it is better to cooperate with me, I can help you through this difficult time. He did not give up. Prepare to save your life through lobbying. Kaido and anti-alliance. Marco froze for a moment, then stared at Brother Ming. What you said is true. Certainly. Kaido, Golden Lion, and Ant will join the alliance in half a month, and then form a coalition to defeat the Whitebeard pirates. Dressrosa happens to have a man-made devil fruit processing plant. As long as the Whitebeard pirates team cooperates with me, I can improve the strength of the Whitebeard pirates in a short time. A smile appeared on Ming's face, thinking that his lobbying might be successful. Papa. Marco turned his head to look, frowning. Although I don't know if what Ming Jie said is true or false, if it is true, it will be troublesome. Goo la la la. Kaido and they crusade me, I had expected it. Advertisement. And also. Whitebeard smiled calmly. He was not surprised by the union of the Kaido trio. Because he knew he had broken the balance of New World. The Whitebeard pirates don't need your help. Kaido and Anti want to maintain the power of New World, the only way is to unite and then attack him together. The smile on Brother Ming's face was stiff, and there was a bad feeling in his heart. When he saw Whitebeard raising his arm, his face changed greatly, and he attacked without hesitation. What? The violent sound of breaking through the air exploded. The transparent thread emerged and rushed towards Whitebeard. The kid of the Don Quixote family. Whitebeard's eyes were very sharp, his hands folded on his chest, and then he let out a low growl. This is not the time for you to be presumptuous. La. Flicked his arms fiercely. The full burst of power in the peak state blasted his fists into the air. The air seemed to be shattered, and cracks appeared, quickly spreading around. Boom. There was a loud noise that shook everywhere. The 10,000-foot-high waves lifted up, and the ground burst like an earth dragon overturned, forming a huge crack. The force of the terrible vibration was surging, hitting the transparent thread. Snapped. A large number of thread breaks. Ultimate's shock wave continued to spread and hit Brother Ming hard. What? A scream came from Ming's mouth, and his body flew out, hitting the boulder hard, smashing the boulder. When the vibration disappears completely, the waves turned into heavy rain and fell back into the sea. Brother Ming smashed to the ground with blood on his face. He was seriously injured and struggling, but he couldn't stand up. One strike. Advertisement. Whitebeard only took one blow. Just defeat Doflamingo, one of 7 warlords of the sea. Seeing this, everyone present changed their colors. How is it possible? Torpal screamed while holding his head. His eyes were filled with disbelief, and his body was trembling even more. Who was Brother Ming? One of 7 warlords of the sea. The famous powerhouse in New World. I thought that even if it wasn't a Whitebeard opponent, he could resist it for a while. But who would have thought that Whitebeard would defeat Ming Jie with just one punch? This is the true strength of Whitebeard. Pika's body was also shaking. Never thought that Whitebeard would be so strong that even his own young master could solve it with one punch. Little Lord, Diamante yelled, his face full of eagerness. Hey, you dare to do something to the old man, I really don't know how high it is. Beasta laughed. Zero. Ming Jie is indeed 7 warlords of the sea. But the so-called 7 warlords of the sea is a stronger pirate in front of the 4 emperors, nothing special. So he didn't feel surprised that Ming Jie was solved with a punch. Take care of the remaining people too. Marco put his hands in Kabuto, his face extremely calm. As he rushed out, with his hands waving, a blue flame appeared, and his body rushed straight into the sky. When he came to high altitude, he immediately locked onto Diamante. Call out. He kicked it hard. Diamante was kicked before he could react. What? The violent pain spread all over the body, screamed in his mouth, and then flew out. Advertisement. Boom. There was a roar. Diamante hit the boulder, broke the boulder and vomited blood, struggling constantly on the ground. But after struggling for a long time, I couldn't stand up. Kick. Marco is the same as Whitebeard. Just 1 foot. Just kicked the senior cadres of the Don Quixote family into serious injuries. The cadres who originally wanted to rescue Brother Ming stopped one after another, their expressions changed drastically. It's over, it's over. Torpal looked desperate. Ming fainted and Diamante was seriously injured. They simply cannot be Whitebeard's opponents. Good job, Marco. 5.0 Beasta exclaimed. Then he waved his long sword and rushed towards the remaining people. Boom. A violent explosion sounded. With the screams, the battle soon ended. Brother Ming and the cadres were seriously injured on the ground and could no longer stand up. Gu la la la. Luo, they will leave it to you. Whitebeard laughed. Father. Luo's eyes flashed with gratitude, and then he looked at Brother Ming who couldn't stand up, and a look of hatred appeared on his face. Every time he saw Brother Ming, he would remember that person. The Corazon who cared for him and left his smile before dying. Brother Ming, I am going to kill you. Luo roared, the murderous intent on his face revealed without concealment. Then he took the long sword and walked towards Ming Brother step by step. 6%. Chapter 125. Death of Brother Ming. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Step to step, Luo walked towards Brother Ming step by step. With every step closer, the hatred on his face increased. When he came to Ming Jie, his eyes were already full of devouring light. Ahem. Brother Ming coughed, blood sprayed from his mouth, and looked at Luo at the same time. Everything you have today is given by me. I should be your benefactor. But why? Speaking of this, his voice became sharp and his tone was full of anger. He couldn't understand why Luo wanted to attack himself. Everything Luo gave was obviously given by himself. If he didn't have himself, Luo would have died when he was a child. Mr. Corazon. Luo said the name after a long silence. Brother Ming trembled when he heard this, and then laughed frantically. Xiao Duo Xiao, that's it, that's how you said you were to help him get revenge, so you turned to Whitebeard to crusade me. Yes, oh one. A look of hatred appeared on Luo's face. Without any hesitation, he drew the long sword. Stabbed. With the harsh sound, blood flowed down. Doflamingo, who was celestial dragons and had the name of 7 warlords of the sea, was easily killed. Little Lord. Diamante and others roared out sadly. But the few people who were seriously injured couldn't move at all, and could only watch the death of their master who had been supporting them for half their lives. Ended. Ron whispered. Advertisement. He finally avenged Mr. Corazon. The nightmare that has been suppressed in my heart has completely disappeared at this moment. After a long silence, he raised the sword again and walked towards Diamante and others. As the cold light flashed, many cadres were killed one after another. From today, there will be no more flamenco in 7 warlords of the sea. Marco whispered. Beasta nodded. Whitebeard on the side did not speak, but looked at the card in his hand. This card was obtained when he defeated Brother Ming. Monster body. Use this card to get an undead body like a monster. Immortal body. A flash of surprise flashed in Whitebeard's eyes. Although I don't know what the immortal body represents, the products produced by the system will certainly not be weak. No matter how bad it is after use, it is estimated that it will not be weaker than Kaido's body. Put away the card and prepare to use it when things are over. At this moment, Luo, who had killed all his enemies, had already turned around and came to Whitebeard, and then bowed 90 degrees. Father, From now on, the Heart Pirate group will be dispatched by Father. Goo la la la. Families don't need so much politeness. Whitebeard laughed, and then the words changed. Since the matter has been resolved, get ready to leave here and prepare for the coming war. When these words fell, several people's expressions condensed. They know what their father said about war. Kaido's alliance with Ant and Golden Lion is definitely to target the Whitebeard pirates. Advertisement. The battle between the four emperors may be about to start. Father. At this moment, a voice came from a distance. Several people turned their heads and looked around, only to see a large group of people running from a distance. Among them are the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, and there are soldiers in armor. After the group walked in, they immediately saw Ming Ji's body. That is, an old man with white hair and a healthy body suddenly opened his eyes wide and his body kept trembling. That demon is dead. Speaking of this, tears shed instantly. He is King Liku. Also the former king of Dressrosa. After Violet heard that he was about to run away, he immediately launched an action and united the forces he knew to resist. When Luo killed a group of cadres in Donji Heed, those who turned into toys recovered, King Liku also reappeared, and announced the truth to the people, which was forgiven by the people. As the tragedy of this country finally coming to an end, Cyrus, who was restored to his original form, also burst into tears. Thanks to Mr. Whitebeard. King Liku looked at Whitebeard, walked 2 steps forward, then knelt heavily on the ground, his head on the ground. Mr. Whitebeard's great favor, Dressrosa will never be remembered. Father, he is King Liku, the former King Dressrosa, who was later framed by Doflamingo and lost the kingship. Joe stood up and explained. You don't have to thank me. Whitebeard shook his head. After reading the original work, he naturally knows King Liku. But, he was not fighting against Brother Ming for this country. Advertisement. And as the strongest in the world, he doesn't need this kind of gratitude. No matter what, Mr. Whitebeard has saved this country. Later I will let people announce this to let the people know, Mr. Whitebeard's kindness to me Dressrosa. King Liku shook his head. He knew that Whitebeard was a pirate. Also knows that 870 Whitebeard is not for himself to defeat Brother Ming. But, so what? As long as he can defeat Ming Jie and restore Dressrosa, he will be his benefactor. Speaking of the invitation, I hope Whitebeard will participate in the banquet. At the same time, let Cyrus announce all the truth. When the people learned of what Whitebeard had done, they were stunned. It turns out that Whitebeard is not a demon in people's mouth. Although he is a pirate, he did more justice than Marine. It was he who saved Dressrosa. Whitebeard is our benefactor. Yes, without him, I wouldn't be able to reunite with my family at all. The people started talking. When they saw Whitebeard again, the people no longer regarded Whitebeard as a demon as before, but cheered. It seems that these people are not afraid of us anymore. Marco laughed. Because the old man saved them. If there is no old man, the country will fall into war Uzumaki sooner or later, and then completely perish. Ace said proudly. Haha, that's right. Joes laughed. In cheers and thanksgiving, a group of Whitebeard pirates came to the palace and held the banquet prepared by King Liku. Chapter 126. Aokiji Akainu. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. World government. 5 elders gathered together. Everyone's face was full of dignity. The kid from Don Quixote's family has lost contact. One of them, 5 elders, said solemnly. Has Whitebeard arrived in Dressrosa? Another 5 elders frowned, but quickly shook his head. Forget it, don't worry about him, we have more important things to deal with. Just now, they got news. Kaido, Golden Lion and Ant will form an alliance to fight the Whitebeard pirates. The harm of these 3 people is huge, once it makes their alliance unimaginable. 5 elders with a big beard snapped. Uncertain. 5 elders with glasses said calmly. Maybe it is a good thing for them to jointly deal with Whitebeard, so that we will have time to deal with the big conscription. Yes. The world is about to riot. With the power of the world government and marine, it is not enough to suppress the entire world, so we must quickly increase our strength. 5 elders with beige hair nodded. Then let them bite the dog. No matter who wins, the loss is the power of the pirates. It is only good for us and no harm. Said 5 elders with white hair. But, the 5 elders who spoke first still disagrees a bit. Now we don't have time to take care of Whitebeard. Just now Marine sent a message saying that Admiral Aokiji was extremely dissatisfied with Akainu's superiority. The 2 are ready to start a decisive battle and fight for the position of marshal. 5 elders wearing glasses sighed. After the battle of the Celebration Island, Sengoku came to the Holy Land Mariajoy and stepped down as the marshal. According to their idea, Akainu should be on top. Advertisement. However, Marine senior generals headed by Sengoku and Garp felt that Aokiji was more suitable to become the new marshal. If put before, they can dismiss it. The strange thing is that during the battle of the Festival Kojima, Akainu performed so badly. As Marine Admiral, he was beaten violently by Whitebeard. And it was also broadcast live. Admiral, Crushed by a pirate, plus one arm missing, how can he become a new marshal? Therefore, Akainu has never succeeded in taking the lead. Never let Aokiji become a marshal, the world is about to riot, we don't need a marshal with a weak character. The bearded five elders strongly objected. What they need is a marshal with strong means. If they still have the same character as Sengoku, why do they want Sengoku to step down? Could it be that Aokiji's strategies and methods are better than Sengoku, the resourceful general? Then let them fight. The winner becomes Marine's new marshal, which also allows Sengoku and the others to shut up completely. Five elders with gray hair said solemnly. But Akainu has broken one arm, I am afraid it will not be Aokiji's opponent. The bearded five elders frowned. Previously, Akainu was known as the strongest admiral, ranking first among the three admiral. But with the arm being cut off by Whitebeard, the level has dropped a lot. If he meets the peak of Aokiji, he is really not an opponent. He will win. No matter what, the ultimate victory can only be Akainu. Five elders with a black hat flashed his eyes. The establishment of power marines and the world's conscription are important decisions of the world government. How could something go wrong because of a little problem? So no matter what happens, they will help Akainu win. Advertisement. A small island. The dark clouds in the sky surged and formed two halves. Half of it was covered in heavy snow with goose feathers, and the other half was burning like flames, turning the sky red. Under the sky, two figures stood, staring at each other. Being kind to pirates is a so-called joke. Only by upholding absolute justice can we end the era of great pirates. The reason why the Battle of the Top and the Battle of the Celebration Island were lost, you and Pelusalino have to bear half the responsibility. Akainu growled. In his opinion, those two wars Marine had an absolute advantage. If the three of them work together, even if Whitebeard claims to be the strongest in the world, he cannot be an opponent. But that's it. Kizaru and Aokiji chose not to act. So much so that the war failed. So he was irritated with the two of them 10,000. There is no absolute justice in the world. The so-called absolute justice will only make more tragedies happen. Aokiji calmed Kaido. After experiencing the Ohara incident, he became suspicious of absolute justice. This is why he did not allow Akainu to become a marshal. Because once Akainu becomes the marshal, this world will definitely give birth to countless Ohara tragedies. As Marine Admiral, you actually said such naive words. If you insist on absolute justice and kill Whitebeard at Marineford, this era will not go away. Akainu yelled, and his arms burned with flames. Boom. The flame erupted. The magma containing ultimate power slammed into Aokiji fiercely. Advertisement. The high temperature evaporates the cold air and melts the ice formed on the ground. Aokiji was silent, but at the moment the molten slurry rushed, he also raised his arm. Stabbed. The icy frost spread. In just an instant, the ground under my feet was enveloped by ice, and then it spread like a tide. Boom. Ice and fire collided. The turbulent energy burst out, raging around. A large amount of water vapor rose up like smoke, Qianzhao's covering most of the island. After the blow, the two rushed quickly. Boom, boom, boom. A series of loud noises roared. The two admirals' desperate fights caused energy to raging, the ground continued to crack, and the entire island shook. And outside the island, a warship docked not far away. Looking at the misty island, the marine officer on the warship was worried. The two admiral finally got into a fight. Momoshige sighed. This is not just a battle between marshals, but also a battle of ideas. T. Dolphin shook his head. The second era of great pirates has come, but the two admiral are fighting here. Where will this era go? Momoshige's face was full of worry and excitement. I don't know if it is her illusion. I always feel that the two admiral vying for the top will only make others cheaper. 26%. Chapter 127. Whitebeard's own son. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. New world is in chaos. First, Whitebeard defeated Brother Ming, and the Ant formed an alliance with Kaido and others. Then came the Marine Admiral battle, vying for the position of Marshal. The conquest from all sides has made the world turbulent. And on a certain island in New World, a battle was also staged at this time. What do you want to do? This is the site of the Four Emperors Kaido. Do you want to be an enemy of the Four Emperors? In the dilapidated town, a middle-aged man was collapsing to the ground with fear on his face. And in front of the middle-aged man, he was a bloated man with long blonde hair and a crescent beard. The big man seems to have a low IQ, and there is still a mucus on his nose. His name is Edward Wabel, self-proclaimed king of the world, Whitebeard's biological son. Kaido dared to form an alliance with the Ant and wanted to shoot against the old man. I would never spare him. It's okay for the man not to say it, and Wabel furious when he says it. The broadsword lifted up and cut it down without hesitation. Stabbed. A harsh voice sounded. The middle-aged man who collapsed on the ground let out a scream and died completely. 13th. Wabel cocked his hands and said, That's right. 870. This is not his first shot. It was the 13th shot. He has been looking for Kaido and Ant since he knew that Kaido was going to unite with his aunt to deal with his dad. 13 towns have been destroyed in a row. These small towns are all under the Kaido banner. Why are you doing it again? At this moment, a sharp voice sounded. Didn't I tell you that you are not allowed to do this? The words fell. An old woman with short blonde hair and a skinny body appeared. Advertisement. The old woman jumped up sharply and slapped Wabel on the head, her face full of anger. But they want to take action against the old man. Wabel said. What do you care about so much? Our most important thing is to make money. Can you make money if you sell Kaido? Miss Bajan hates iron but not steel. Oh. Wabel seemed to be very afraid of Miss Barking, and replied weakly. Then we are going to find Daddy. No. Miss Bajan heard the cold sweat. These days. She did a lot of bad things under the banner of Whitebeard. If it is known to Whitebeard, then even if there is friendship with the ship, I am afraid that Whitebeard will clear it. That's why she won't go to see Whitebeard. People who claim to be the wife and son of Whitebeard are so big in the world that they dare to pretend to be the name of Whitebeard. In a house in a dilapidated town, a man stood in front of the window, looking at Wabel and Miss Barking in the distance. Boss, but that guy looks like Whitebeard. A civet cat whispered. It's really similar. The man nodded, then revealed a familiar face. That's right. The man is Ryder. Since leaving Whitebeard, he found his first partner Patong. Then he went to Sleep Ancient Town to get the bat fruit. He regained his youth, walking in New World, and passing by this small town today, but he didn't expect to encounter the current situation. Boss, shall we inform Whitebeard? Patong asked in a low voice. Ryder nodded. He was able to escape from Impel Down and get the bat fruit, thanks to Whitebeard, so this favor had to be repaid. Speaking and looking up, I want to remember the looks of the two of them. But it's okay not to look at it. I was stunned when I saw it. Advertisement. Because the two people who were standing far away just now have disappeared. Yao huo. I thought someone was spying on us. It was you, Ryder. The figure of Miss Bajan appeared. Ryder turned his head fiercely and frowned when he saw Miss Barkin's face. Familiar face, you should be the person on the Rock's ship. ABFA, Yao huo. Yes, and I'm still Whitebeard's wife. Miss Bajan laughed. Wife. Whitebeard won't marry someone like you. Ryder smiled. What did you say? Miss Barkin was furious, then turned to look at Wabel. Take him out, he is your father's enemy. She didn't know why Ryder was here. But it is clear that Ryder must not be allowed to leave. Otherwise, the news of his slander and deceit spreads and attracts Whitebeard, so does he still have a way to survive? Papa's enemy. Wilburton's eyes widened. After roaring in the mouth, he raised the big knife and slashed it violently. Stabbed. The violent sound of breaking through the air exploded. Just by listening to the movement, you can know how terrible this knife is. Boss, be careful, Patong exclaimed. Just regaining my youth, I can just try my current strength. Ryder chuckled and drew the bat sword. Clang. The voice of Jinti appeared. A series of sparks flashed, spraying wine around. Then Ryder felt a terrifying force, which actually suppressed him back for a while. Advertisement. This power. Ryder's eyes narrowed. Unexpectedly, Wabel would have such strength. Even the regained self cannot easily take this knife. How dare you be an enemy with old man, I must kill you. Wabel yelled angrily, saying that he raised the knife again and cut it down continuously. Clang, clang, loud voices keep appearing, one blow followed by one blow, slashing Ryder back and forth, and his arm numb. The powerful force and the means of attack are brutal and unstructured, but they are deadly like beasts. Is this guy really Whitebeard's son? Ryder couldn't help but think. Before, he thought they were liars who bluffed and deceived in the name of Whitebeard. But after witnessing Wabel's strength, he became suspicious. Because with Wabel's strength, no matter whether he sails or joins other forces, he can be famous for New World, without the name of Whitebeard. Die me. Seeing that he could not take Ryder for a long time, Wabel was finally angry. The power of the whole body erupted, and the big sword was slashed fiercely. Clang. Ultimate's power exploded. Ryder's arm trembled, and he used all his strength to block the knife. After receiving the blow, he did not fight back. Because he has no reason to fight. It won't get any benefit if it goes on. Now just pass the message to Whitebeard and let Whitebeard handle it himself. At this point, the long sword swung. Stabbed. The huge slash dodged, causing Wabel to dodge in a hurry. And he also took this opportunity to grab Patong, smashed the glass directly, and disappeared into the streets of the broken town. Chapter 128. Tripartite Alliance. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Dressrosa. After several days of carnival, Whitebeard and others are finally leaving the country. Early this morning, King Liku brought the people to the port to see off Whitebeard and his party. Wow. The sound of rolling water waves sounded. After the farewell, the Moby Dick slowly went away and disappeared, in people's sight. My daddy, where are we going next? Shirahoshi asked curiously. Yes, Dad, shall we continue sailing in New World or heading to the first half of the Grand Line? Marco said. Look at this first. Whitebeard did not answer directly, but threw out a newspaper. Marco took it and exclaimed after just taking a look. The resourceful General Sengoku stepped down as Marshal, and Akainu becomes the new Marshal Marine. The world government forcibly removed Sengoku from the position of Marshal, and at the same time put the Molten Boy on top. However, there were some mistakes in the middle, which led to a battle between Aokiji and Molten, and ultimately ended in Aokiji's defeat. Boy Aokiji has left Marine and is no longer Marine Admiral. Whitebeard explained. This. Everyone looked at each other, but at the same time a little worried. Because Akainu has a grudge against them, if the other party becomes a marshal, they will definitely target the Whitebeard pirates everywhere. It shouldn't be. Akainu was cut off by his father. How could he be Aokiji's opponent? Ace clutched his head, a little confused. Yes. It's weird. Marine will not have any conspiracy. The captains began to discuss. Goo la la la. It's the world government's decision to become a marshal. How can they let the Aokiji boy win? Advertisement. Whitebeard took a sip and smiled. Akainu, who lost his arm, is indeed not Aokiji's opponent. But with the help of the world government, that would be different. So Aokiji's defeat is not strange. World government. Ace and others thoughtfully. It doesn't matter who wins or loses. We don't have time to care about it now. Don't forget, Kaido Kid is about to form an alliance with Linlin. Whitebeard said slowly. Marco froze for a moment, and instantly reacted. Father, do you want to summon the fleet? Call. The war is about to begin. By the way, after the summoning order is issued, immediately move in the direction of Punk Hazard. Whitebeard said solemnly. Just last night, he got a subpoena from Ryder. It is said that in the first half of New World, 2 people pretended to be his name and did some shameful things. One of them is Wabel, who claims to be his parent and child. So he must go there and settle the matter. I see. Marco nodded. The summoning order was conveyed quickly. After the Whitebeard pirate group's ships were summoned, they all stated that they would make peace with the Moby Dick as quickly as possible. After one day, a certain sea area in New World. The Mobile was still sailing on the way to Punk Hazard. But today, the Whitebeard pirates got a puzzling news. Whitebeard parent-child may become 7 warlords of the sea. The huge headline was printed on the top of the newspaper, making the captains dumbfounded. Original. Advertisement. Wabel did not be honest after encountering Ryder, but continued to walk in the New World with Miss Barking. The destruction of the 2 naturally attracted Marine's attention. After investigation, Marine found out. Wabel could be Whitebeard's parent and child. I don't know if it was for disgusting Whitebeard or for another purpose, Marine actually proposed to make Wabel the 7 warlords of the sea. As soon as this news was announced, New World instantly shook. As the message true, Daddy's biological son, and cut off the arm of the original Admiral Zephyr a long time ago. Is this a joke? What the hell is going on, Daddy? The captains looked at Whitebeard. I want to know if my father has a son. Goo la la la. Miss Barkin, she used to be on the same boat as me. 0 seeking flowers, 0. Whitebeard smiled calmly. So the 2 are liars. Did you not listen to the old man? Miss Barkin is just a companion. Yes, if it's true, how could he not admit it because of his father's character? The captains started talking. Think about it too. My father cares most about his family. If there is a parent-child, then the parent-child will never be left out. Move on. Whitebeard said, while looking at Marco. Help me inform Ryder, World, and let them meet me. At the same time, send an order to make all the forces under the Whitebeard pirate group look for the footprints of Wabel and Aokiji. Clear. Point 0. Advertisement. Marco nodded and stepped back immediately. Soon, he contacted World and Ryder and explained the reason. When the 2 learned that Whitebeard wanted to see him, they did not refuse, and agreed to meet in Punk Hazard a few days later. 5 days later, the group arrived at Punk Hazard. On the shore of the island, 2 figures were waiting there. Valorolo. That guy Whitebeard is finally here. World laughed when he saw the Moby Dick. You should know the purpose of Whitebeard. Ryder rolled his head slightly. Certainly. World's eyes flashed. Yes, now that you know it, it's a miracle that you are still willing to come. Ryder chuckled. Humph. The world is sliding into the abyss of war, so we must make a choice. World snorted. He knew Whitebeard's purpose. It's nothing more than letting myself join the Whitebeard pirates. If it were put before, he would definitely not agree. But it's different now. The world is about to riot, and the 4 emperors have chosen the alliance. If they are still alone, they will be wiped out sooner or later. So now we can only join one party, or alliance with one party. Since you want to join the alliance, then why not choose the world's strongest Whitebeard pirates? And Chapter 129, Wable vs. Aokiji. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The three are allied. Both Rider and World know it. The world is about to usher in a tragic war. In order to deal with the ensuing turmoil, the two made the final choice, that is, to join the Whitebeard pirates. Goo la la la. You will never regret today's decision. Whitebeard grabbed the jar, poured it hard, and laughed. I hope so. Rider nodded, and then asked curiously, by the way, is that kid named Wable really your son? Goo la la la. No matter who it is, anyone who is adventurous on the sea is eligible to be my son. Whitebeard didn't answer directly, but laughed instead. Rider listened thoughtfully. Father, there is news about Aokiji and Webs, 870. At this time Marco came over. There was news from Shiryu just now that it was the sea area where he was, and Wable's footprint was found. Talking about the specific situation again. It turns out that a lot of things happened during these days when they sailed. And the starting point of the matter is, Wable may become a report of 7 warlords of the sea. After this report appeared, the former Marine Admiral Zephyr was extremely dissatisfied. He even had strong doubts and distrust within Marine, and resolutely withdrew from Marine. Zephyr, who had left, attacked Wable. That's right. The opponent did not form Neo Marine like the original, but chose to shoot directly. But the result of the attack was surprising. As Zephyr of the original Admiral, it was a big defeat, and was chased by Wable. Advertisement. At the same time, Aokiji, who was injured because of his failure to fight for the position of Marshal, was unable to heal his injuries after receiving the news, and was ready to rescue his mentor. So in the next few days, 3 people may appear on a small island in New World. Do you want to solve this? Rider asked curiously. The war is about to begin, so these 2 boys can't continue to mess around. And that kind of reckless hairy boy, I really like it. Whitebeard calmed Kaido. After speaking, look at Marco. Signal to set off to the island provided by Shiryu of Rain. The small island is not only possible for the 3 of Aokiji. The fleet of the Whitebeard pirate group will also gather there to welcome the upcoming war. New World. Ionian Island, a natural town. This small island is just an ordinary island in New World, and the town is also ordinary. But just today, 3 great people have been ushered in. Original Admiral Zephyr, Original Admiral Aokiji, Wable. After Zephyr's attack failed, Wable was chased and killed, and fled to this island in embarrassment. Aokiji, who came to the rescue, naturally followed. When you are old, you must serve the old, but don't follow the young ones to fight and kill. Aokiji looked at Zephyr helplessly. Humph, have you even left Marine? Sure enough, Marine's justice has completely deteriorated. Zephyr panted, cold sweat slipping away. Although he used to be admiral. But with the increase in age, the strength declines severely, and the admiral level has long been lost. Coupled with these days of escape, let him reach the limit. Advertisement. I left, just want to adopt different positions to see if the justice in my heart will change due to different positions. Only a change in position can make me see more clearly. Aokiji said calmly. He did not resent the world government's help to Akainu. The reason why first left Marine is that first, as Marine Admiral, cannot see the real justice. So I want to use different identities to find the answers I want. Humph. Does that make a difference? Zephyr snorted coldly. In his opinion, no matter what Aokiji left for, the fundamental reason was because he had doubts about Marine. You want to stop me too. Wable on the opposite side couldn't help it anymore, Ern said. It's amazing to be able to push the teacher to this level. Now I kind of believe that you are Whitebeard's son. Aokiji looked up. He didn't believe Miss Barkin's words before. But after seeing Wable's terrible strength, he suddenly believed a little bit. Daddy only has my son, everyone else is fake. Wable has a serious way. Ah, whether it is true or not, can you let him go? After all, he is my teacher, I can't let him die in front of me. Aokiji didn't entangle this matter, but pointed to Zephyr. Don't think about it, Wable yelled, his face full of anger. Zephyr attacked him and his mother Miss Bajan was also injured. So no matter what, he would never let Zephyr go. It seems there is no way. Aokiji sighed. The moment the words fell, the cold breath sprayed wine from the body, freezing the surroundings like a raging wave. Advertisement. Click, click, click. The ground was frozen and the temperature dropped rapidly. Then it rushed to Wable like a tide, and the speed was almost ultimate. Die me. Wable yelled and swung his sword vigorously. Stabbed. A sharp light flashed across. The rushing ice was split in half. After seeing his own hit, Wable rushed out quickly and approached Aokiji. Shabu. The body jumped and cut with a big knife. The violent sound of breaking through the air exploded, you can know how terrible the blow was. Aokiji's eyes condensed and immediately raised his arm. The frost sprayed wine from the palm of the palm, forming an ice bird of 5.0, facing the severed sword. Boom, boom, boom. The roar of terror continued to circulate. Wabel and Aokiji fought fiercely. If placed in the past, Wabel is naturally not Aokiji's opponent. However, the battle between Aokiji and Akainu did not last long, and the broken leg and body injuries did not recover at all, and the combat power fell at least by half, so that it was impossible to win Wabel. Boom. The explosion sounded again. The two played vigorously and it was difficult to tell the winner for a while. But what neither of them knew was, beyond the island, a giant whale-like ship, along with more than 40 other large ships, is constantly approaching this small island. The Whitebeard pirates who got the news. After several days of sailing, I finally arrived at the destination. Chapter 130. One Punch to Kill Miss Bajan. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Whitebeard is here. And it's not alone. Instead, they came with the 40 or 50 giant ships under its banner. The mighty fleet broke through the waves, and looked at it, as if out of sight. The people on the small island also saw the fleet for the first time, and they trembled with fear and fled desperately. What happened? Why is it so noisy? On a small boat, Miss Barkin sat up from the rocking chair and looked around in a daze. This ship did not belong to her before. She used the name of Whitebeard to grab it. As for why he was on the ship instead of following Wabel, it was entirely because she was injured when she was attacked by Zephyr, so she stayed on the boat to recover. It was for this reason that she agreed to Wabel chasing Zephyr. Flee, Whitebeard is here. The sound of horror sounded, and the people at the port escaped cleanly. Whitebeard. The originally confused Miss Bajan instantly widened his eyes and looked towards the sea. Oh, one. It's okay not to look at it, but I was shocked when I saw it. I saw a large number of huge ships coming from a distance, so mighty and could not see the side. And on the mast of each ship, there is also a pirate flag with a crescent beard. Whitebeard. Miss Bajan screamed out, covering her face. Although she was called Whitebeard's wife, it was all bluffing. And during this time, she did a lot of bad things under the name of Whitebeard. If this is known by Whitebeard, if the two have a friendship on the same boat, they will definitely die. Why did Whitebeard come here? Advertisement. Do you know that I used his name to bluff and deceive? Miss Bajan looked terrified, and her body trembled. However, she was also a quick-witted person, and immediately reacted after a trembling all over, and ran towards the cabin. She knew she couldn't stay here, she had to leave quickly. In a hurry, he returned to the cabin, took out the box with Bailey, and rushed out. Perhaps Bailey is too much and the box is too heavy. It took a long time to drag the box out of the cabin. At this time, the warships of the Whitebeard pirates have docked at the port. As soon as Miss Bajan came out, he happened to see this scene, and the 7 souls and 6 souls were almost frightened. It's over, it's over. She was trembling all over, and she was lying on the ground. He was holding his head with his skinny hands, afraid of being spotted by the Whitebeard pirates. If she hadn't gotten into the cabin to fetch Pele, she could have escaped. It's no wonder that she was too greedy for money and wasted the best time to escape. Goo la la la. Bacon, are you afraid of seeing old friends? Standing on the bow of the mobile, Whitebeard turned his head slightly, looked at Bajan who was not lying on the board, and smiled calmly. Guru. Miss Bajan swallowed, knowing that he was found. So he raised his head tremblingly, showing a smile that was even worse than crying. It's been a long time, Whitebeard. After saying this, the body shakes more severely. It's been a long time indeed. But it's a pity, you shouldn't behave in my name. Whitebeard's tone became low. Finished. Without giving Miss Barkin a chance to react, he raised his fist and punched hard in the air. Boom. Advertisement. The ear-splitting sound exploded. The terrible shock wave spread, causing the sea to boil. The boat that had been docked on the shore was swept away by the waves and automatically retreated towards the deep sea. Miss Bajan's eyes widened. Looking at the ships moving further and further away from the shore, they finally couldn't help but scream, and their hands were more like drowning people, constantly shaking. Whitebeard, listen to me explain, listen to me explain. She was scared. I'm really scared. Knowing what I haven't said yet, I guess I'm going to finish it. Goo la la la. Bajan, as an old friend, let me bury you in the sea with my own hands. Whitebeard smiled calmly. The sword lifted up. With the swing of the arm, the knife cut down. The terrifying shock wave rushed out with the sharp edge, slashing the sea, and smashing on the boat. Click. The boat was severed with a knife. The force of shock once again tore the boat into 2 halves to shreds, and Miss Bajan also fell into the water for the first time. Whitebeard, let me spare me for the sake of my companions. Miss Bajan shouted with fear. However, there was no reply to this. As the huge waves rolled, the body slowly sank into the sea and was buried in the seabed forever. Wow. The waves fell heavily. After more than 10 seconds, the sea level returned to its former calm. Miss Barkin, who had pretended to be Whitebeard, had been swept away by Whitebeard and died completely. Hey, advertisement. I dare to pretend to be the name of the strongest man in the world. I really don't know whether to call it smart or stupid. Crocodile sneered. But not everyone can bear the name of the 870 father. Like this kind of liar, there is more than a guilty death. Marco said indifferently. Goo la la la. Let's go. Go ashore and settle the last thing. Whitebeard didn't take another look. After speaking, he jumped off the boat and came to the shore. The other captains looked at each other and followed. But the group did not go far. I heard a roar of terror. Looking up, I found thick smoke and frost in the direction of the town, and it seemed that someone was fighting. Could it be that Wable fought Aokiji? Ace couldn't help asking. Possible. Don't forget, Zephyr is Aokiji's teacher. The reason why Aokiji came here is to rescue Zephyr. Keita Curry replied. Let's go and take a look. Whitebeard's expression remained calm. After all, the battle is right in front of you, and you can know the specific situation at a glance. Talking and walked quickly. Across the long street, a group of people came to the battle site. I saw two figures in an open space fiercely clashing, and terrifying energy spread around, shattering the ground. One of them is very strange. And the other person is impressively. Aokiji. Chapter 131. Sling Zephyr. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Boom. Wable and Aokiji fist. Energy burst swept around like a storm, and the solid ground was fragile like tofu, which was easily crushed. After a punch, the two separated. Then they rushed out again and collided together. Goo la la la. This battle ends here. Whitebeard laughed. The fist was raised sideways and smashed into the air. Boom. The ear-splitting sound exploded. The terrible power burst out and swept like a raging wave. The two people with orthogonal hands shrank their eyes, and instantly felt the terrible shocking force, and had to retreat. Boom. There was a loud noise. Dust rose from the sky, covering the two figures. Whitebeard. Zephyr, who was originally watching the battle, saw Whitebeard for the first time. His face suddenly changed. Not only that, but also the captains and captains of the teams under Whitebeard. After seeing these people, an idea came to his mind. That's what Whitebeard wants to do. Because everyone knows that although the Whitebeard Pirates has a big business, it is very loosely organized. It was not during the Great War, and the fleets would never get together at all. Now all the captains gather. Doesn't it mean Whitebeard is going to war? This thought emerged, causing him to tremble fiercely. The rumor that Kaido is going to fight Whitebeard together with the ant seems to be true. Aokiji's figure emerged from the smoke and dust, and then said with a vigilant face. Although there was news before. But no one knows whether the news is true or not. After all, no one is sure whether the two want to make a fake shot and make other ideas. But when I saw Whitebeard and the captains appeared. Advertisement. He understands. This is not a vain shot. It's really an alliance. If it's true, what did Whitebeard do here? Is it for us? Zephyr frowned. Do not know. Aokiji shook his head and became alert at the same time. Although he is no longer Marine Admiral, he has played against Whitebeard before and is considered a half-enemy. So he had to be careful about what was happening right now. How come there are two me? At this moment, an exclamation sounded. I saw Wable staring at Whitebeard blankly while touching his own face. He couldn't tell whether Whitebeard was himself or someone else. This guy is Wable, someone who calls himself father and son. Marco looked curiously. Can't he distinguish himself from his father? A hint of doubt flashed in Jinbei's eyes. Seems to be. Ace nodded. Whitebeard, you don't want to take care of your old age, and you still take a group of sons around the world for what you do. Also, what is your purpose in coming here? Zephyr finally couldn't help it. Goo la la la. You old fellow, haven't you guessed it? Whitebeard chuckled slightly. Really? Zephyr's face changed drastically. He was still wondering if Whitebeard wanted to start a war. Now that I heard it, I confirmed it instantly. A big war is about to break out in New World, so some things must be cleaned up before the war starts. Whitebeard spoke calmly. Once the Whitebeard pirates and Kaido and others go to war, it must be a terrifying battle. Advertisement. Aokiji and others are all high-end combat power, which can be called an unstable factor. It is better to solve the unstable factors as soon as possible. Avoid problems at critical moments. Zephyr's face changed drastically, and then yelled, do it. The words are so clear that he wouldn't know. The restless factor in Whitebeard's mouth is himself and Aokiji. It is clear that today we must either surrender or be wiped out. His family and disciples were killed by the pirates, but he would not surrender to Whitebeard. If you don't surrender, you should act immediately. Shabu. The figure flashed. Almost instantly rushed to Whitebeard's eyes. The huge mechanical arm waved and hit Whitebeard's head severely. Do not want. Aokiji's expression on the side changed drastically, and he didn't expect Zephyr to be so impulsive. But his reminder was obviously late. Goo la la la. Zephyr, You who are old and frail, are you the same Black Arm Admiral from before? Whitebeard smiled calmly. You old guy is the same age as me, so don't underestimate me. Zephyr yelled. The mechanical arm made a violent sound of breaking through the air, and slammed it down fiercely. For this punch, Whitebeard did not evade, but raised his fist. Boom. The collision of the two punches. The ear-splitting sound rang, and the turbulent air wave spread to the surroundings. Subsequently, under the horrified eyes of everyone, Zephyr's robotic arm made a crackling sound. Taste. Cracks appeared on the sturdy steel mechanical arm, and then exploded. And Whitebeard's punch. Advertisement. Also in Zephyr's shock, he banged on his body. A terrible shock raged across the body, and the shock on Zephyr's face quickly turned into horror. Strength. Unparalleled power. In front of this power, he, the original admiral, felt like he was beaten to death. Boom. The body flew out like a cannonball. With a loud noise, it crashed into a house in the small town, and the house collapsed, raising countless dust. Aokiji's face was stagnant. Although I think Zephyr is very impulsive. But he really didn't expect that Zephyr would be crushed by a punch, and there was no way to fight back. The shock came to his mind, making him take a breath. Ahem. The cough sounded. People were alarmed, Qian Zhao's, and turned their heads to look around. Zephyr, who was bombarded, climbed up from the pile of rocks, then supported the ground with both hands, and blood dripped from the corners of his mouth. The punch just now was Whitebeard's full punch. How could the old Zephyr catch it? How come? Zephyr didn't care about the blood at the corner of his mouth, but looked at Whitebeard in shock. Who is he? Original Marine Admiral, Black Arm Zephyr. Even if he is old and physically weak and loses an arm, he is better than most people. I thought that even if he was not Whitebeard's opponent, he could support one or two, and then took the opportunity to escape. But the result is, wounded by a punch. A sense of absurdity surged into his heart, making it hard for him to accept. I don't understand why Whitebeard, who is obviously in the same age as himself, still has such strength. Not only has this strength, still stronger than when I was young. Chapter 132, Zephyr's Despair. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Daddy is really getting stronger and stronger. Ace sighed. Ha 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 ha. Although Zephyr used to be admiral, but now he is just a veteran and is nothing to Dad. Jaws's tone was full of pride. I wish I could be as good as Uncle Whitebeard in the future. Luffy looked envious. After this period of training, although his strength has risen, it is still a long way from fighting Admiral. Now seeing Whitebeard hurt Zephyr with a punch, he is naturally envious. Damn it! Zephyr shouted at this moment. I don't believe that Whitebeard will have this kind of strength. Even more unacceptable, the self who was able to fight Whitebeard before will be easily crushed by Whitebeard. In the loud roar, he stood up abruptly. Armament Hockey climbed up his arm and threw his fist hard. Boom. The sound of breaking through the air exploded. This punch is more terrifying than the last one. Goo la la la. Zephyr, you can't shake your fist anymore. Whitebeard laughed with a hint of emotion. How powerful was the Black Arm Zephyr back then? No matter which pirate encounters, there is a power of 870 battle, and over time he is respected as Black Arm Admiral. But now, just an old and frail old man. Family members and disciples were killed and there was nothing they could do. Marine, who has believed in his life for a lifetime, not only ignores this matter, but wants to make the person who killed his relatives and students become Shichibukai. Students, family, faith. Advertisement. Zephyr, who was all lost, became a downright poor man. Whitebeard, don't underestimate me. Zephyr roared. The body leapt up, and the arm covered by armament Hockey hit Whitebeard severely. The air was hit like this, and there was a series of sonic booms. In the face of such a powerful blow, Whitebeard did not evade, even the ability of Shock Fruit was useless. Like Zephyr, it just uses armed color to fight back. Boom. The dull sound roared. The two banged fist to fist. The invisible air wave is centered on the double fists and spreads towards the surroundings. Although the ground was strong, it could not withstand this force and it burst directly. Goo la la la. Let me accompany you in the last fight, ABFA. Whitebeard smiled lowly. Speaking hard to shake his fist, Armament Hockey spread his entire arm, and his strength surged in vain. Boom. Zephyr couldn't resist this kind of power, and was blasted back several steps in a row. After stomping on the ground several footprints, he could not stop. Come again. Zephyr rushed out again. Armament Hockey covered his fist and swung his fists vigorously. In the face of this attack, Whitebeard still had no ability to use, only Armament Hockey. Boom. 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 The two kept blasting each other. A wave of air spread, and the ground was covered with dust. Ms. Zephyr is not an opponent at all. Aokiji sighed. He could tell that Whitebeard didn't use his full strength at all. The reason for this is probably to accompany this old friend in the final battle. If you go all out, you might be able to solve Zephyr easily. Advertisement. Isn't this normal? Crocodile sneered, and sarcastically said, Old Whitebeard can easily hurt you, let alone a veteran with a severe decline in strength. Aokiji twitched at the corner of his mouth, but he couldn't refute it. Because Crocodile is right. Zephyr has been able to fight his father for so long, it is already his father's tolerance. Marco said lightly. If it were someone else, Whitebeard would have solved it with one punch. The reason why he has been involved with Zephyr for so long is entirely because both of them are old friends who have survived the old days. Boom. While several people were discussing, the fighting between the two sides continued. Whitebeard shook his fist violently. Under the power of Ultimate, Zephyr, whose strength has declined severely, has no benefit at all. With the attack, he was forced to retreat continuously. The battle should also be over. Whitebeard forced Zephyr back with a punch, then raised his right fist and slammed it into the air. Boom. There was a loud roar. Cracks appeared in the air, spreading around. The fierce shock swept across and hit Zephyr. Before Zephyr could use the armament hockey defense, he was hit by the strong shock and flew out. Boom. The ground trembled, and countless dust was lifted. Zephyr, also known as the Black Arm, was lying on the ground in embarrassment, vomiting blood. Return. Zephyr resisted the pain in his body and stood up again. In the roar, he rushed out again, and the iron fist covered by armament hockey swept across, bringing a series of breaking air. You who are no longer young are no longer my opponent. Whitebeard's tone was low, let alone whether Zephyr's strength has declined. Even if he didn't, he couldn't beat him. Because his strength has long been enhanced, it is not comparable to before. Advertisement. Talking, the body flashed, avoiding the attack. At the same time, his fist was raised and hit Zephyr's body severely. Boom. The air shattered. The shock erupted and swept through Zephyr's body. The opponent didn't even have time to defend, so he fell to the ground with a punch. What? Zephyr was hit hard, his sturdy body trembled, blood spurted out of his mouth, and then screamed. After receiving such a blow, he still wanted to continue struggling to stand up. Pity. The battle is over. It's not over yet. Can't do it. After Whitebeard really took it seriously, it took just one punch. Just beat Zephyr seriously. Zephyr, this is a new era. The era when you cross the sea has long passed. Whitebeard looked at Zephyr as if looking down, and said with some emotion. Yes. Zephyr lay on the ground blankly, and then let out a miserable laugh, then kill me. He knew that as long as he asked for mercy. With the friendship between himself and Whitebeard for many years, Whitebeard will definitely let him go. But he hates the pirate, and he won't beg Whitebeard for mercy. And after this war, he thoroughly understood. My old self cannot change anything at all. Perhaps death is the ultimate destination. Do not want. Aokiji's face changed drastically, and he rushed at the fastest speed to block Zephyr. Although this request is very unreasonable, I still hope you can let Zephyr go. After all, he and Zephyr have a sense of mentoring and apprenticeship. So he couldn't help but watch Zephyr die in front of him. Chapter 133. Aokiji who was blown away by a punch. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Gu la la la. Boy Aokiji, the current situation is not something you can control. Whitebeard laughed. He never thought of killing Zephyr. Because Zephyr is his old friend no matter how. But it is his business not to forgive the other person, and it is him who makes the decision. Instead of requesting or even interfering by Aokiji. As he raised his fist, he hit the air fiercely. Boom. There was a loud roar. Ultimate's shock power spreads, rushing to the opponent like a mountain torrent. Not good. Aokiji's face changed drastically. He didn't expect Whitebeard to be so decisive. Without even thinking about it, he grabbed Zephyr and quickly backed away. But the shock wave continued to come. Even if you keep avoiding, you can't avoid it. Ice Age. At the moment, Aokiji raised his arm and drank. With the push of both arms, the moisture in the air instantly froze, and the frost sprayed the wine along the air and the air towards Whitebeard. At the same time, an ice wall was formed in front of him. This ice wall was extremely thick, several meters wide, and looked like a huge shield. It seemed to rely on this method to resolve Whitebeard's blow. Boom. The ice and shock waves collided, and the roar blew out for the first time. Then, under the horrified eyes of people, the ice shield produced cracks, and it was about to burst. Careful. Zephyr roared behind him. Aokiji frowned and increased his strength again. The violent frost swept across, freezing the ice shield full of cracks, blocking Whitebeard's blow. But after catching the blow, his face was a little pale. Do not forget. Advertisement. He was already injured. There was a fight with Wabel just now. In this case, it is already very remarkable to be able to catch Whitebeard's full blow. Gu la la la. Aokiji boy, let me see when you can be arrogant. Whitebeard laughed loudly, raised his fist again and continued to attack. Boom. This attack was even more terrifying. The strong shock is centered on the body and rushes forward. The ground exploded and turned into small fragments, which continued to fly around. And the huge ice shield blocking the front of Aokiji also shattered under a punch. The power of the spreading shock blasted Aokiji's body immediately. Boom. The soles of the feet could no longer grasp the ground, and the body flew like a cannonball. In a loud noise, it crashed into the house, knocking down the whole house and raising countless dust. How can it be? Zephyr yelled out loud, eyes full of shock. He was shocked again. Because of the horror of Whitebeard, he refreshed his imagination again. I thought I would lose only because of my old age. But only after seeing Aokiji being blown away did I realize that losing is not just about being old. More because the current Whitebeard is stronger than before. Wow. There was a low moan, and people looked at it. Xing Shang, who was blown away, climbed up from the pile of rocks, then supported the ground with both hands, and vomited scarlet blood from his mouth. He was seriously injured because of a kainu. Now being hit by such a heavy blow, the body suddenly reached its limit. Ahem. Aokiji panted, cold sweat steadily slipping away. Gu la la la. Aokiji boy, if you want to survive, you can resist it with all your strength. Advertisement. Whitebeard smiled calmly. The purpose of his coming here is to solve the instability factor. For Aokiji, either take it or clear it. Either way, it needs to be defeated in order to do it. Speaking of this, make another move. Rinse. The tall body rushed like lightning, but it rushed to Aokiji in an instant. The fist was enveloped by armament haki, and he slammed hard at the opponent. So fast. Aokiji's eyes shrunk into needle-shaped awns. Immediately resist the pain and stand up, raise his fist to fight. Boom. 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 Deafening sounds kept appearing. Whitebeard and Aokiji rely on close combat to fight together. The invisible air wave is generated, so that all people watching around raise their arms to block it. Boom. It was another pair of punches. The two figures fell on the ground at the same time. Whitebeard was fine, but Aokiji's face paled again. Zero seeking flowers, zero. Gu la la la. Whitebeard laughed, his right foot trembled to the ground, and his tall body rushed out like lightning. He came to Aokiji in the blink of an eye. Ahem. The injured Aokiji coughed, but seeing Whitebeard attack again, he could only raise his arm to resist. Boom. The crackling sound exploded. The power spread and surged around. Whitebeard, we have no need to fight at all. Aokiji shouted, resisting the urge to vomit blood. But he was greeted with a punch. Boom. Advertisement. Whitebeard slammed a punch into the air. Cracks appeared one after another, and the fierce shock burst out, hitting Aokiji. Not good. Aokiji crossed his arms and wanted to carry it down. 0. But the power of the shock was beyond imagination, and it blasted him out directly. The slender body penetrated the wall and fell to the ground, then smashed the ground into a big hole. That fellow Aokiji, doesn't he really think he will be the opponent of old man Whitebeard, do you? Crocodile sneered with a cigar in his mouth. If placed before, Aokiji is still at its peak, and may be able to play against Whitebeard 1 or 2. But the other party had just experienced the Battle of the Marshals and suffered heavy losses. Later, he had another fight with Wabel, and his body and stamina reached the limit. Now I want to fight Whitebeard, it's just a dream. Aokiji knew that he was not an opponent, and Dad didn't use his full strength. Marco chuckled. As the person who has been around Dad the longest, he already knew what his father's purpose was. Oh. The captains looked at each other. If I don't understand, I can only continue to look at the battle. Shabu. At this time Aokiji had already stood up. With a pale face, he forcibly endured the pain on his body and released ultimate frost. Click, click, click. The ice spread, freezing the ground. But Hanshuang didn't wait to rush to Whitebeard. Whitebeard raised his arm and punched the air sideways. Boom. The force of the shaking spreads. The ground was easily crushed, and then hit Aokiji hard. Aokijio, who just stood up, flies out again. And. Percent. Chapter 134. Aokiji, be my son. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Aokiji fell down. He was originally injured, but was repeatedly hit by Whitebeard, so that he was severely injured and could no longer stand up. Trouble. Aokiji, lying on the ground, smiled bitterly. In this situation, if Whitebeard wants to kill himself, he will undoubtedly die without support. Step, step, step. The sound of footsteps awakened the contemplative Aokiji. Lifting his head with all his strength, I saw Whitebeard walking step by step. Gu la la la. Aokiji boy, don't you want to say something? Whitebeard smiled calmly. No need. Aokiji's head rested on the ground again, looking at the blue sky and white clouds. As the king of the world, you will not be affected by a few words. He knew that Whitebeard was a 883 person. If a few words can make Whitebeard change his mind, is Whitebeard still Whitebeard? Gu la la la. Whitebeard laughed loudly when he heard this, and at the same time the words changed. I guess your leaving Marine is more than just a failure to compete for seat, right? That's right. Although the position of Marine Admiral allows me to see more things, it also limits my horizons and makes me have to make some wrong decisions. Leaving Marine may allow me to see what I couldn't see before. Aokiji said slowly. Gu la la la. If that's the case, it would be a shame to let you die here. Whitebeard smiled, then stretched out his hand. Since you want to see the world clearly from a different position, then get on my boat and become my son. The words fell silent, and the audience fell silent. Not to mention Aokiji himself, even Ace and others stared. Dad wants to accept Aokiji as his son. Advertisement. This is definitely not a joke. The captains looked at each other in surprise. Who is Aokiji? The highest combat power of the original naval headquarters. It is the world-famous admiral, and its strength is at the top of the world. If such a master joins the Whitebeard pirate group, the strength of the Whitebeard pirate group will definitely increase. Certainly. This is not the point. The point is that Aokiji is Marine Admiral. That's right, even if Aokiji leaves Marine. But the captain still had doubts. After all, no one knows whether this is a conspiracy. For example, will Aokiji be Marine undercover? Another example is whether it's okay at all. Aokiji's departure from Marine is just a cover for the world government to divert attention. Now the battle between the Whitebeard pirates and Kaido and Anti is about to start. What if Aokiji is an undercover agent and then fights back during the war? Daddy wouldn't be serious, would he? Beasta couldn't help but said. Arts. Joes opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything. Do you still not know the character of the old man? Marco smiled. Since I have spoken, it is naturally true. But, the other captains frowned. Before it was determined whether Aokiji was an undercover agent, it was too risky to let the other party join the Whitebeard pirates. Believe Daddy. Advertisement. Since Dad wants Aokiji to join us, it must make sense. Keita Cooley said coldly. Yes, when have you seen Dad Halai? Ace supports immediately. The other captains glanced at each other, and finally suppressed their thoughts. At this time, Aokiji is still in a daze. He never dreamed that Whitebeard would invite himself on board. Seeing Whitebeard's serious expression, knowing that Whitebeard was not joking, he hesitated. Although first left Marine to observe the world from a different place. But different positions produce different effects. The Whitebeard pirate group is the strongest pirate group in the world. If you can join and become a member of the ship, it is really helpful to find the answer. Kuzan, are you going to give up your righteousness and become a pirate with all evil? Zephyr shouted at this moment, his face full of anger. In his opinion, as Marine Admiral, Aokiji joining the Whitebeard pirates is undoubtedly a depraved behavior, which is unacceptable to him. A pirate who doesn't do evil. Aokiji froze zero. The originally hesitant heart also became firm because of these words. Because in his mind, not all pirates are innocent. Just like the Whitebeard pirates in front of me. Not only did it not do evil, but it sheltered many places. As a Marine Admiral, I can't see everything clearly, maybe becoming a pirate can help me understand more about justice. Aokiji thought secretly. Gu la la la, Aokiji boy, how are you thinking about it? Whitebeard's extended hand did not retract, but maintained its original posture. Advertisement. I am extremely happy, father. Aokiji raised his head and gave the final answer. When the words fell, Zephyr's eyes widened. He looked at Aokiji in disbelief, wondering why Aokiji, the former admiral, would agree to such a thing. Kuzan, are you going to violate your own justice? He roared angrily. Marine's justice is not all justice, and the pirates are not all evil. And, there are some things that I can do no matter where I stay. There are some more things that can only be seen clearly if it is no longer Marine. Aokiji calmed Kaido. Zephyr was angry, but couldn't give a reason to refute. Because he left Marine, 5.0 is also because he questioned Marine and world government. So for some of Aokiji's words, he still agrees. But approval does not mean that he supports Aokiji as a pirate. He always thinks that he hates pirates. Becoming a pirate is a symbol of depravity. Gu la la la. Zephyr, you are already old, then use the rest of your life to see how this era will develop. Whitebeard laughed, then turned to look at Marco and others. Sons are ready to set sail again. Whitebeard. Zephyr was frightened and angry. He is really old. I was so old that my students became pirates, but I couldn't stop them. Can only watch things happen. Chapter 135. Akainu and Fujitora meet again. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The figures of Whitebeard and others slowly moved away. Wabel, who had been sluggish, also woke up, and then hurriedly followed. Father, wait for me. Although his IQ is not high, he also knows that Whitebeard is the daddy he has been looking for. Now that the old man appears, he doesn't care about Zephyr. Kuzan, Whitebeard, Zephyr yelled, but neither Whitebeard nor Aokiji paid any attention. Seeing this, he finally understood that Aokiji was determined to join the Whitebeard pirates. On the coast, Whitebeard and others have already boarded the ship. Wabel, who followed, stood on the shore at a loss and found that his mother was missing. No need to look for it, your mother is dead. Marco couldn't help but said. Died. Wabel froze in place, then howled like a child. Hello. Is it really good to tell him directly about this kind of thing? Beasta couldn't help but said. The other party will know sooner or later. Marco didn't care. It's impossible to hide this kind of thing. Rather than let Wabel know in the future, it's better to tell the other party now. If Wabel wants to avenge his father. That's right. Eliminate this instability factor before the start of the war, lest there will be any mobs after the start of the war. Advertisement. But if the other party still recognizes the old man, it is not impossible for Wabel to join the Whitebeard pirates. Hello. Aren't you looking for Dad? Do you want to get on Dad's boat? Ace shouted. Woo. Wabel, who had been crying extremely sad, stopped crying instantly and stared at Ace. If you like, get on the boat as soon as possible. Ace said again. Oh. Wabel, who had a low IQ, forgot about the death of Miss Barking, and ran towards the Moby Dick with both legs. Goo la la la. Whitebeard laughed, did not stop, waited for everyone to board the boat and waved his hand. Sons. Oh. The captains cheered. 40 or 50 battleships broke through the water and headed for the distant waters. Sailing. New world disturbed. After Marine experienced the martial battle, he finally decided on a new marshal. Akainu's first order to take office was world conscription. That's right. He deeply felt that Marine was weak. It is prepared to carry out worldwide conscription according to the requirements of the world government to enhance its strength. This command was delivered at once, and it caused a sensation in the whole world in an instant. Although Marine and world government have suffered successive defeats. But no matter how it is the strongest power that has ruled the world for 800 years, as soon as the conscription order was issued, it instantly attracted a large number of masters. Conscription. He closed his eyes and stood up with a smile. After the Battle of the Celebration Island, he has been walking in the new world, observing the changes in the world, and feeling the injustice of this world. Advertisement. Now the big conscription begins. So he wanted to join Marine and change the injustice of this world. Hope Marine will not let me down. Laughed and strode away. Marine G2 branch. As the headquarters is still under construction, a group of generals are staying in the branch not far from the new headquarters. How is the conscription order? Akainu sat in the marshal's position with a cigar in his mouth, and said in a serious tone. It has been launched, and the situation is very good. In just a few days, many experts have been collected. Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral quickly Kaido. Really? Then take me over and have a look. Akainu stood up. The conscription is an important part of his plan. If he doesn't confirm it personally, he won't be at ease anyway. What? Yumo was taken aback for a moment, and then nodded hurriedly. Turned around and took Akainu and walked outside, about 10 minutes away, to the conscription point. At this time, a large number of people gathered at the conscription point. The examiner is also strictly reviewing every member of the army. Good. Akainu was satisfied. Although the strength of most people is not very good, the victory lies in the large number. In the case of a high base, some good seedlings can always be found. There are always a few masters among so many people. It can be thought of as a symbol of the extent to which the strength of our marine will increase after the end of the pawn. Vice Admiral laughed. Akainu replied and continued to look down. Looking around, he saw a familiar figure. This figure is wearing a purple robe, holding a long sword, and his eyes are tightly closed. Advertisement. Seeing this man, Akainu's eyes widened, with a hint of disbelief on his face. That's right. This person just smiled. And a smile also has a grudge against Akainu. During the Battle of the Festival Island, I would meet Akainu when I evacuated with a smile. Because he wanted to leave soon, he didn't show any mercy at all, and directly drove Akainu into the pit. Since then, Akainu has been included in the ranks of pirates with a smile. Good, very good. Evil pirates dare to come to conscript. Do you really think anyone can become a marine? Akainu was extremely angry. He was really 883, almost laughed angrily. If the smile was only a pirate, he wouldn't be so angry. But as a pirate, without knowing that he was low-key, he swaggered to join the army. Is this surely humiliating Marine? The anger was soaring in his heart that he couldn't hold it anymore. That person is a pirate who participated in the Battle of the Festival Island, and also helped the Whitebeard pirate group against Marine. Now send my order to arrest this person. Akainu growled. What? The flying squirrel's eyes widened, and a flash of disbelief flashed across his face. Then he looked down and smiled. I didn't expect this pirate to be so bold. After participating in the Battle of the Festival Island, he dared to come here. Is it an undercover agent sent by the Whitebeard pirates? Thinking of this, he could no longer sit still and ran off immediately. At this time, the smile was still waiting in line for the conscription assessment. I didn't know that I had been discovered by Akainu, and he was also labeled Whitebeard undercover. The justice of the world government and Marine is not true justice. If First can join Marine, the first thing I do is to abolish the 7 warlords of the sea system. His eyes flickered with a smile. As my thoughts spread, I even thought about how to realize my ambitions after becoming Marine, and make the world a fair one. Chapter 136. Fujitora is dumbfounded. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Step, step, step. The chaotic and dense footsteps sounded. A team of seamen personally led by the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral appeared and surrounded the entire conscription group. What happened? How come there are so many seamen and surround them? Isn't something serious? The people who came to join the army started talking. Is this also one of the assessments? He woke up with a smile that fell into the fantasy, and a doubt flashed across his face. Vice Admiral, do you have any instructions? The conscription examiner hurried away. Humph. Announce one thing before this. Yumo snorted coldly, his eyes swept from the crowd. One of the people who joined the army was a pirate who had participated in the Battle of the Festival Island, and also helped Whitebeard against Marine, perhaps a spy sent by Whitebeard. What? There are pirates in the army. And is it Whitebeard's spy? Who is it? Who is so bold? Whitebeard is known as the king of the world, it must be a conspiracy to do so. The people looked at the person next to him suspiciously, as if the person next to him was Whitebeard's spy. It turns out that this kind of thing happened, no wonder Marine is going to fight. But why does Whitebeard send a spy? Thought to himself with a smile. Advertisement. At the same time, I felt around and seemed to want to find out who the spy in the mouth of the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral was through this method. It is true that I am a spy sent by Whitebeard when my identity is revealed. If it were not for the reminder of Marshal Akainu, I am afraid that everyone will be fooled by you. The Flying Squirrel couldn't help but exclaimed when he saw the quiet smile. When everyone heard this, they became more surprised. Oh, the spy has a calm demeanor, and the person present can rule out at least 80%. Feeling around with a smile, I found that most of them looked flustered, and only a small number of people remained unchanged. Vice Admiral, who is Whitebeard's spy? The recruiter's examiner finally couldn't help but ask. Listen, everyone, the spy sent by Whitebeard is wearing a purple robe. Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral deep voice Kaido. Purple robe. When people heard it, they looked around. After seeing the people wearing purple robes, he hurriedly avoided, fearing that they were spies. I am not a spy. The people in purple robes were nervous. Wearing a purple robe, as a result, the target range has been reduced. With a smile, I felt like I was about to find the spy. That man is not only wearing a purple robe, but also holding a long sword. The Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral smiled but was still indifferent, suddenly angry. He hasn't seen a spy like this. I said so clearly and pretended to be ignorant, trying to deceive everyone. Hi, really hi. If Marshal Akainu hadn't known this person, with this person's hidden skills, I'm afraid I could easily sneak into Marine. He thought to himself secretly, and at the same time listed Yi Xiao as a deep-minded person. Advertisement. Holding a long sword. Everyone who joined the army looked. Those who wore purple robes but didn't have long swords suddenly showed a surviving expression, and quickly distanced themselves from those who were holding long swords. Long sword. He smiled and looked stagnant. Although he couldn't see it, he also knew that he was wearing a purple robe. The characteristics of the voice mouse Vice Admiral seemed to be similar to his own. The suspect won't have a copy of me, will he? The thought came out of his mind, and he was startled. Finally can't calm down. Vice Admiral, a flying squirrel with a weird face, sneered, and announced the last characteristic. This man is not only wearing a purple robe and holding a long sword, but he is also a blind man with his eyes closed all the time. When the words fell, people looked at it quickly. It only took a while to fix the target on Yi Xiao. Among the hundreds of people present, many were wearing purple robes and holding long swords, but they were still blind, with only one smile. Is this a spy sent by Whitebeard? It's so bold that I dared to come to the conscription point and wanted to sneak into Marine. This guy has been spotted by the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral, there is absolutely no way to escape. Everyone stared at him with a smile, and kept backing away at the same time. I'm Whitebeard's spy. A smile looked sluggish. He was dumbfounded, completely confused. God testifies that he is really not a spy. And not only is he not a spy, but an enemy of Whitebeard, he fought Whitebeard during the Battle of the Celebration Island. Joining the army this time is entirely for the sake of upholding justice. Advertisement. Why did you suddenly become a spy sent by Whitebeard? I was found out, so I admit it. Seeing a silent smile, the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral took the initiative to make a brain supplement, thinking that this was the default after the smile was discovered. So with a wave of his hand, a team of Marines quickly surrounded. And many more. He woke up with a smile and looked at the position of Vice Admiral. I am not Whitebeard's spy. Is there any misunderstanding between us? Misunderstand? At this time, you still dare to quibble? The flying squirrel Vice Admiral was angry. He had never seen such a pirate spy. As a spy, not only did he come to the conscription point to join the army, but after he was discovered, he also told him about misunderstandings with Vice Admiral. Is this treating him as a fool or Marshal Akainu as an idiot? We should have a good talk and resolve the misunderstanding. Good money. Smiled and frowned. He really couldn't understand how he became Whitebeard's undercover agent, and was discovered by Marine for the first time. How long do you want to hide? At this moment, a low and angry voice sounded. People were all agitated by this sound and looked at it. I saw on the balcony of the building in front, a majestic man wearing a marine cape, but one arm missing, was standing there. He stared sharply and smiled. Marshal Akainu. All the seamen quickly salute the uncle. I personally participated in the Battle of the Festival Island. In order to help Whitebeard escape, this person did not hesitate to act on Marine. This kind of behavior is not guilty. Akainu said coldly, then waved a big hand. Don't shiver with the innocent pirate, arrest him and impel down. Chapter 137. Terrible Fujitora smiles. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. It's you. With a smile, through induction, he finally recognized who the person in front of him was. It was the Marine general who was beaten down by himself. But I didn't expect that the general was Akainu, and he also became Marine Marshal. Finally remembered. Akainu's eyes were cold. The shame at the beginning is still fresh in his memory. Now that he meets again, he will naturally not let him go easily. This is a misunderstanding. I am not from Whitebeard. He smiled and sighed, knowing that he couldn't argue. Misunderstand. The pirate who does no evil is a pirate who does no evil after all. Do you think this will make people believe what you say? Akainu yelled and didn't say any more, but waved his hand. Take him down. Yes. Vice Admiral, the flying squirrel, immediately waved his arm. The seamen that had been prepared set up their guns and fired quickly. Bang, bang, bang. The gunpowder was rolled up and the bullets flew. It's really disappointing. Marine is one of these filthy people. He smiled and sighed. I thought that joining Marine would achieve justice in my heart. 883 But who would have thought that Akainu, as the Marshal, would shoot himself regardless of his own interests? Even the Supreme Marshal is like this, and other Marines must be similar. At this point, he immediately raised the sword. Boom. A terrible burst of gravity. The bullet was bounced off before it flew to the front. The surrounding Marines were also overwhelmed by ultimate gravity. Since Marine won't take in, let's say goodbye. I hope that when we meet next time, we won't be the enemy. With a smile, he put away the long sword, and walked outside with his clogs. I really thought it was a place where you can come and leave if you want. Advertisement. The flying squirrel was furious. After living for so long, he has never seen such a pirate. Speaking, he drew out the sword and rushed towards it with a smile. Stabbed. A sharp light flashed. The long sword containing murderous intent came over his head with a smile. But before the arm was swung down, the flying squirrel felt a heavy force pressing on him. Boom. The body fell to the ground severely. The terrifying gravity is raging, and the ground is fragile like tofu, bursting open instantly. The speech mouse, who was originally aggressive, was also crushed and unable to move. What kind of power is this? The flying squirrel raised his head, and a look of shock flashed across his face. Unexpectedly, this undercover agent was so strong that even himself, Vice Admiral, was crushed by one blow. But soon, a sense of humiliation emerged in my heart. He is Marine Vice Admiral. Now in front of so many people, being beaten on the ground by a pirate is simply a shame. The body struggled desperately, trying to stand up. But this gravity is beyond imagination. No matter how hard he struggles, he can't get rid of it. How so? Isn't the voice mouse Vice Admiral the well-known Vice Admiral from Marine? Why was it solved by this pirate in one blow? Who is this pirate, so strong? The people who joined the army around talked and looked at them with a horrified smile. I just want to leave here, and I don't want to be an enemy of Marine. Smiled. Although he failed to join Marine. But he is really not a pirate, and he doesn't want to be an enemy of Marine. The shot was just for self-protection, and there was no other idea. Speaking to take a step forward, continue to walk. Presumptuous. Akainu was angry with ultimate. Advertisement. To him, a pirate is a pirate. Since Marine has been convicted, he should go to impel down and regret it. Instead of stubbornly resisting like a smile. And more importantly, the act of smiling reminded him of Whitebeard. Whitebeard wanted to do the same, ignoring Marine's majesty and treating Marine as nothing. ABFA, this unscrupulous behavior made him hate ultimate. Pirates are all evil, and this world is so chaotic because of villains like you. Akainu roared. As the anger rose, the molten slurry climbed onto the arm. Fang Gurren. Boom. The hot magma blasted out violently, and the ultimate high temperature twisted the air and slammed it into a smile. I have no intention of being an enemy of Marine. Smiled and frowned. But seeing the molten slurry rushing, he could only stand up and resist. Boom. The ground was fierce. The rushing molten slurry burst, and the ground beneath Akainu's feet collapsed. Akainu suffered a loss last time, so naturally this time he won't eat it a second time. As soon as he noticed the fluctuation of the ground, he jumped up immediately. Go to hell. With a roar, fists waved. The magma is surging out, and its power is even more terrifying than last time. The smile frowned deeper. Feeling the temperature of the magma, I have to avoid it. Boom. The magma hit the ground, and the ultimate energy raged to smash the ground, and countless fragments splashed, creating white marks in the air. Akainu saw a miss and did not stop the attack. Instead, they continued to take action, causing huge damage. Advertisement. He sighed with a big smile. As the Marshal Akainu worked so hard, you can know that he really regarded himself as a pirate. Understand that even if you leave here, you will be wanted by Marine. At the thought of this, he was a little frustrated. Kang. The long sword is drawn. As the power surged, it swung down fiercely. Boom. There was a loud roar. Crimson enveloped the sky, and a depressed breath spread. What happened? How could the sky suddenly turn red? The people present were startled and looked towards the sky one by one. Akainu subconsciously stopped the movement in his hands. Boom. The loud noise appeared again. Under everyone's gaze, a black spot appeared in the sky. This is. The color of doubt flashed in people's eyes, and then they found that the black spots were getting bigger and bigger, until they could see clearly. Meteorite. A meteorite appeared in the sky. The surface of the meteorite was burning with flames, dyeing the entire sky red, and then falling with a rumbling sound, bringing a terrible movement. How come? The people below were dumbfounded. Looking at the meteorite falling rapidly, fear surged into my heart, and my body began to tremble. After the battle just now, everyone knows that a smile is very strong, not an ordinary pirate. But I didn't expect that a smile would be so strong. Feng Qingyuan summoned a meteorite. Chapter 138. Fujitora's Horror Bounty. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Akainu's eyes shrank into needle-like awns. Seeing the falling meteorite that was about to destroy everything, he didn't even bother to smile again. Molten spread on the fist, and then blasted out with a punch. Dark Hound. A huge pillar of molten fire erupted. The meteorite hadn't completely fallen, it was blocked by the pillar of fire. Boom. There was a loud roar. Under the raging magma, the boulder stagnated in the air, and then made a crunching sound. Stop. Stop. It's Marshal Akainu. Marshal Akainu resisted the meteorite with one hand. Awesome. Marshal Akainu is really amazing. People who thought that death was imminent, when they saw the meteorite stop, they cheered and looked at Akainu, and they were full of admiration. Humph. Akainu snorted coldly. As the power increases, the power of magma becomes more terrifying. Boom. The meteorite exploded. Countless debris flew around, hitting the ground with a roar. Billowing smoke rolled up, obscuring people's sight. After a few minutes, the smoke and dust dissipated, and the conscription site returned to calm. But the smile has disappeared and disappeared. Obviously, he took advantage of the chaos to leave. Marshal Akainu, the man has fled, do you want to order a pursuit? Yumo hurriedly asked. Escaped. Advertisement. Akainu looked around and found that his smile was gone, and his heart rose with anger, so he snarled, list the other party as a pirate, and set a bounty at the same time. Bounty. That should. The flying squirrel was taken aback. Although the opponent is a pirate, but the strength is not weak, so the bounty is temporarily set at 1 billion. Akainu suppressed the anger in his heart and said coldly. 1 billion. The flying squirrel was dumbfounded. 1 billion bounty is not low, even if it is placed in New World, it is considered a huge bounty. Generally, only the vice-emperors of the 4 emperors have this kind of quota. Moreover, Marine does not make bounties arbitrarily, not to mention that if the opponent is strong, the bounty is high. Rather, it depends on the impact and destruction caused by the person who has been offered a reward. The greater the damage, the higher the bounty. A smile is just a nameless person. Logically speaking, even with the strength against Admiral, the bounty is at most 2 to 3 billion. But now it was set at 1 billion in one breath, which shocked him. He is no ordinary pirate. Akainu drank coldly. In his opinion, the fiasco of Celebration Island was entirely because Marine underestimated Whitebeard. If the battle for the top ends, Marine and world government will value each other. There would be no defeat in the battle of the Celebration Island. Experience this painful lesson. Let him understand. No matter what you do, you must cut the grass and root out the roots, otherwise there will be endless troubles. Although it is only a nameless person. But the strength is strong, if you don't take it seriously as you did with Whitebeard, sooner or later it will become a confidant. So instead of this, it is better to set a high reward early and let everyone pay attention to it. Advertisement. I see. Speech Mouse nodded when he heard this. After retreating, immediately arrange a chase and announce the rewards for laughter at the same time. A certain sea area in New World. A smile is driving the boat, driving in the endless sea. He sighed heavily. I thought first could join Marine to fulfill my ambitions. But I didn't expect such a thing to happen. It's fine now. Not only did he not become Marine, but he became Whitebeard's spy. After today, I am a pirate even if I am not a pirate. Smiled and frowned, knowing that he didn't care if he was a pirate before. After experiencing what happened today, I will be wanted by Marine, and I will never become a Marine again. Thinking of this, he fell into deep thought, thinking about what to do next. After thinking for a full hour, he finally made a decision. It's impossible for Marine to become a pirate. Marine is not absolute justice, and not all pirates are evildoers. He smiled and whispered, then looked at the distant waters. As long as the justice in my heart can be achieved, what about becoming a pirate? Speaking of this, he was completely determined. Prepare to collect Whitebeard's information while sailing, and then join the Whitebeard pirates. That's right. In his opinion, pirates are good or bad. Among them, Whitebeard is the kinder pirate. If you really want to be a pirate and use your identity as a pirate to achieve justice, you can only join the Whitebeard pirate group. Because in New World, only the Whitebeard pirates have this kind of power. I hope Whitebeard doesn't let me down. Advertisement. He smiled and sighed. Then he drove the boat and disappeared into the vast sea. New World disturbed. First, the news of Whitebeard's crusade against Doflamingo spread through the world, and then Kaido and the ant jointly shocked the world. When everyone feels that the world is about to change drastically, there is another news that shakes the world. That is, Marine announced a new reward. Among them, the person who is offered a reward is an unknown person. But the bounty of such unknown people is as high as 1 billion. What is the concept of a billion? Few people in New World have this kind of bounty. Anyone who has this kind of bounty is a master who moves the world. For example, Kata Cooley and Jack the Drow, both of whom are famous powerhouses under the 4 emperors. Now an unknown person suddenly has this kind of bounty. Let people wonder, what exactly did this person called Yi Xiao commit, and what strength he possesses, would be wanted by Marine like this. Goo la la la. On the Moby Dick, Whitebeard looked at the newspaper in his hand and burst into laughter when he saw the bounty with a smile. He did not expect such a change in the plot. The smile that was supposed to be Marine Admiral and earned the reputation of Fujitora turned into a pirate wanted by Marine. And it can be seen from the bonus amount. Marine has listed Yi Xiao as an extremely dangerous person. Why is Dad so happy today? Ace couldn't help asking. Who knows? Marco also felt puzzled. When the two were discussing, Whitebeard had put down the newspaper and stood up, then laughed loudly. My sons have a banquet. And 9%. Chapter 139. The world shakes. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. A small island in New World. Half a month has passed since Whitebeard's crusade against Doflamingo. After half a month of preparation, Kaido, Anti and Golden Lion finally began to meet. This day, 3 masted sailboats came from afar. A piece of black, as if invisible to the edge. There are different flags hung on the masts of these ships, one of which is the flag of the Golden Lion, and the other is the flag of the ant. Finally come. On the small island, Kaido stood up and looked at the sea in the distance with a serious look on his face. Big brother, even if you want to unite with your aunt and the others, you must take us as your master. Quinn said solemnly. Don't worry, I know it. Kaido waved his hand and walked towards the port. At this time, a ship had stopped at the 883 side of the port, and the 2 largest giant ships were at the forefront of all the ships. It's been a long time, Linlin, Golden Lion. Kaido said solemnly. He, Whitebeard, Anti, and Golden Lion were all people who came out of the same boat. However, since the death of Rocks, the few people have rarely seen each other. Gahahaha. Kaido, don't talk nonsense, just tell me how you want to unite, and don't be polite with Lousy there. What kind of character is your kid, does Lousy still not know? Golden Lion swaggered to the bow, with a cigar in his mouth, looking down at Kaido with disdain. That's right, since we want to unite, let's talk about the regulations again. The ant not far away nodded. Advertisement. The reason why the 3 are united is not because of their good relationship. It was because of the sudden rise of Whitebeard, which squeezed their living space. In order to continue to maintain power, they chose to unite. Therefore, the rest of the nonsense should be kept at a minimum, and directly explain how to unite and then how to defeat Whitebeard, which is the top priority. It's really arrogant. Quinn, who was standing next to Kaido, looked upset. Because it was not Kaido who proposed the union, but the ant. So in his opinion, it was the ant who begged Beast's pirates, not they begged the ant and the 2. Don't worry about it. Kaido didn't care. Although he is usually reckless, he is not a fool, but extremely clever. Knowing that the most important thing now is to deal with Whitebeard. Only by eliminating Whitebeard can they continue to gain a foothold in New World. In the face of life and death, their rudeness seemed insignificant. Enter the island and talk about it. Kaido spoke, then turned away. The ant standing on the bow of the boat and Golden Lion looked at each other, jumped off the boat, and quickly followed. The three of them walked into the island, where a banquet had already been prepared. Several people are considered old friends, and they are not polite at all. Guru. Kaido took a sip of wine, and then said in a deep voice, the strength of the old man Whitebeard is more terrifying than before. Some time ago he deliberately attacked Brother Ming. In New World, who didn't know that Brother Ming had a huge deal with me? So Whitebeard's purpose is not Brother Ming at all, but me. Speaking of this, he was furious. As soon as the clown died, his artificial devil fruit plan fell through. This is a huge disaster for Beast's pirates. Not only that, the guy in Newgate actually shot Katakuri. I will never forgive him. Advertisement. The ant screamed, her breath continued to spread. It really wasn't the two of them deliberately suspecting Whitebeard. But what Whitebeard did is too specific. Katakuri is the first star of the ant pirates, and an important cornerstone for the ant to maintain the power of New World. But now he was abducted by Whitebeard. Although Ming is not from Beast's pirates, he has a huge deal with Kaido, which is related to the establishment of the Kaido army. Both are now resolved by Whitebeard. If this is not targeted, then what is targeted? Gahahaha. Since you are determined to attack Whitebeard, what should you do? Tell me a charter. The Golden Lion laughed. The battlefield can be set at Wano-kuni, so that I can mobilize the greatest strength to besiege Whitebeard. Kaido said solemnly. Hey, it's easy to say, but Whitebeard is not stupid, how could he take the initiative to run to your Wano-kuni? Golden Lion looked disdainful. Mom, I have a way to get him to Wano-kuni. The ant grinned, and a treacherous color flashed in her eyes. As long as I use Katakuri's traitorous brothers and sisters as bait, Katakuri will never sit back and watch. Newgate cares about his family the most, does he still? Watching Katakurigu. Leave. Gahahaha. Use your own children as bait, it's really you, old woman. Golden Lion laughed out loud. Zero. Really useful. Kaido was a little skeptical. Katakuri cares most about those brothers and sisters. As long as I release the news to kill Bree and the others, he will definitely come with that traitorous character. Advertisement. Aunt Sen sneered. She is the mother of Katakuri. She knew nothing more about the character of her son. If that's the case, then so decide. Starting today, our 3 official alliances. Kaido made a final decision. No problem. The ant and Golden Lion looked at each other and had no objection. The 3 people who reached an agreement did not stay too much on the island. After the tripartite forces left, news of the combination of the Golden Lion pirates, Ant pirates, and Kaido pirates instantly blasted across the world. Everyone knows that the 3 will unite against Whitebeard. At the same time, a gossip also spread among people. That 5.0 is Katakuri's refuge in Whitebeard, which aroused the wrath of the ant, preparing to publicly execute Bree several people in a week. As soon as the news came out, everyone was chilling. Unexpectedly, the ant would be so cruel and would not have any pity for her children. Does the dog bite the dog? But it's good to fight. After the battle is over, we can kill the 4 emperors. 5 elders sneered after receiving the news. All major departments have begun to cooperate to let Whitebeard know that the world government and Marine will not participate in this war. They didn't do this to help Whitebeard. It was to reassure Whitebeard. In this way, Whitebeard and Kaido will break out into an all-out war. After the war is over, the world government can take advantage of the fisherman's profit. Until Whitebeard is eradicated. 29%. Chapter 140. 4 Emperors Battle. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Father, there is big news. Early this morning, Marco rushed to Whitebeard with a face full of eagerness, holding a few newspapers in his hand. Kaido has joined forces with the ant and the Golden Lion, ready to attack us. What? Before Whitebeard could speak, the captains exclaimed. Take a newspaper and read it carefully. After reading it, everyone's complexion was a little ugly, and the eyes burned with anger. Although I know that the Kaido trio united to deal with the Whitebeard pirates. But when I got the news, I was still angry. Damn Kaido. At the time of the Battle of the Top, he wanted to attack our territory while we were no longer there, and now he dares to unite the ant and Golden Lion against us. These 3 fools, do you really think that you can sit back and relax by defeating us? The world government is a hungry wolf. If we fall, these 3 fools will definitely be besieged and suppressed by the world government. 01. The captains angrily discussed. Is it finally going to war? Aokiji's eyes flashed. Isn't this something that I knew a long time ago? What's so angry? Beasta said solemnly. Yes, it is because we knew the conspiracy of Kaido and others, so we gathered all the forces to prepare for this battle. Jinbei nodded. Old man Whitebeard, what should I do? Crocodile snorted coldly with his cigar in his mouth. Father, Marco, Ace and others also looked at Whitebeard, wondering how to deal with this. Goo la la la. Since the kid Kaido wants to shoot us, let him come. Advertisement. Whitebeard smiled calmly. Isn't he summoning all his fleets just to fight the three-person alliance? Since the other party wants to do it, there is nothing left to say. They dare to be an enemy with the old man, I will not spare them. Wable clenched his fists. Hey, I will blow them away with one punch. Luffy smiled while holding the back of his head. By the way, Daddy. In addition to the news of the three-person alliance, I also got a gossip. I heard that my aunt was furious because Katakuri joined us, and she plans to publicly execute Katakuri's brothers and sisters in Wano Kuni. Marco suddenly remembered something. What? Katakuri, who was silent, opened his eyes fiercely, with a touch of eagerness on his face. Marco, is this news true or false? If nothing happens, it should be true. Marco sighed. Knowing that the aunt released this news, she wanted to lure Katakuri to Wano Kuni. Although this method is despicable, it is very effective. And more importantly, my father cares most about his family. If Katakuri decides to go, his father will never sit back and watch. Wano Kuni is Kaido's base camp. Once there, the initiative of this war will be Kaido and others' master. So, this is a conspiracy that forced the Whitebeard pirates to go deep into the tiger's den. Damn it. Advertisement. It's so despicable that the aunt threatened Katakuri with her own children. Jinbei's face was full of anger. I must fly them, and then rescue the brothers and sisters of brother Katakuri. Luffy kept pressing his fists and let out a groan. Katakuri, how do you choose? Aokiji turned his head and whispered. Father. Katakuri clenched his fists and looked at Whitebeard seriously. I want to go to Wano Kuni. When this word fell, everyone frowned. None of the people present are idiots. It can be seen that the aunt released this news to lure the Whitebeard pirates to go there. So now Wano Kuni is definitely not a good place. Just when everyone was silent, Ace suddenly spoke, with a bright smile on his face. It just so happens that I want to go to Wano Kuni too, to complete an unfinished agreement. So Daddy, let us both take a trip to explore the reality there. Goo la la la. What stupid thing are you talking about there? Now Wano Kuni is not a place where you two hairy boys can go around. Whitebeard laughed. Today Wano Kuni has gathered three forces. The degree of danger has reached the level of Marineford. If they were allowed to go, they would not be able to rescue Katakuri's brothers and sisters with their strength, but would be folded there instead. Father, I'm causing you trouble. Katakuri clenched his fist tightly. If it weren't for him, the Whitebeard pirates would never be as passive as it is now. Katakuri. Advertisement. Marco put his hands in Kabuto, and turned his head slightly. His face was full of seriousness. The family members must help each other. Ha 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 ha. The brothers and sisters of Katakuri are our brothers and sisters. If the aunt dares to attack them, it is tantamount to declaring war on us. Joes laughed. Yes. 883. The captains nodded. Although the union of the angry three people, anger does not mean fear. Bai Jing's Whitebeard pirates even broke through Marineford. How could they be afraid of the combination of Kaido trio? Knowing that this war cannot be avoided, every captain is gearing up, and the fighting spirit is rising in his heart. Goo la la la. Since the kid Kaido wants me to go to Wano Kuni, please do as he wishes. Whitebeard stood up, and the tall figure cast a huge shadow in the sun, covering all the captains' bodies. Sons, war is inevitable. Since they want to make a move, then we will fight head on. Let everyone know what happened to offending us. Oh, all crew members heard this loud response. Soon, a huge ship changed direction and headed towards Wano Kuni. The Whitebeard pirate group made such a decision. Naturally, it couldn't hide from the various forces of New World. When people learned that Whitebeard was going to Wano Kuni, they were all shocked. Unexpectedly, Whitebeard is so bold, not afraid of Kaido's union at all. No, at the same time. The war is about to begin. Chapter 141. Fujitora wants to join the Whitebeard pirates. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Whitebeard is ready to attack Kaido and others. On a small boat, he sat cross-legged on the ground with a smile, and sighed deeply. It's really troublesome now. But this is an opportunity for me. He was still thinking about what reason he would use to join the Whitebeard pirates after he found Whitebeard. After all, he was considered Whitebeard's enemy. During the Battle of the Festival Island, he also shot Whitebeard. But the current events gave him a reason to join. And compared to Whitebeard, Kaido and Auntie are indeed pirates who do no evil. Maybe they can take this opportunity to wipe out in one fell swoop and give New World peace. He whispered with a smile, and left immediately when he said this. 3 days later, come to a certain sea with a smile. And not far south of the sea, there is a small island. Although this small island is an ordinary island, it is a must-pass to Wano Kuni. Most of the ships going to New World in the second half, they have to pass through here for supplies. Just as he was about to board the island to wait for Whitebeard's arrival, he sensed a large number of ships leaving the island. There is also a very familiar breath in the fleet. This breath was that of Whitebeard. In other words, this fleet is the Whitebeard pirate group. Perhaps it is finished with supplies and ready to leave. A smile changed slightly. No matter what, he hurried to chase the boat. But how could the boat catch up with the big boat? It only took a short while to separate the two. This made him understand. If you don't take action, I'm afraid you will miss Whitebeard. I had to do it too, I was rude. He took a deep breath with a smile, and then drew the long sword. Advertisement. Kang. The symphony of gold and iron sounded. The terrifying gravity centered on the body, spreading wildly around. The power of ultimate erupted, and the sea trembled fiercely. Under the pressure of this kind of gravity, the sea level slowly sinks, and the ship traveling on the sea also shakes violently. What happened? The sea is shaking. Is there a tsunami? What's the joke? Here is not far from the island. Where will a tsunami of this scale occur? The crew on the Whitebeard pirates frowned, wondering why this happened suddenly. Not a tsunami, but man-made. Marco said solemnly, and pointed to the railing of the ship. Look. Everyone hurriedly looked. It was found that there were cracks in the railing of the ship, which were formed by squeezing at first glance. So someone shot us. Is it Kaido's people? Ace looked around, flames burning in his fists. Kaido them. Everyone became vigilant as soon as they heard it. Because it is only 2 or 3 days away from Wano-Kuni, Kaido and others might actually launch a raid here. Goo la la la. After the Battle of Celebration Island, do you really want to be an enemy of me? Whitebeard, who was sitting in the middle of the boat, suddenly smiled. His observation hockey reached ultimate, so when he laughed out of his hand, he sensed the presence of the opponent. I just didn't expect that a smile would shoot myself. Although the sense of smile is not bad, I also know that the other party is a person full of justice. Advertisement. But this is not a reason to allow the other party to be unscrupulous. Father, did you find anything? Marco asked hurriedly. Look at the back. Whitebeard stood up, turning his body behind him. Hearing this, everyone hurriedly turned around and looked around. Then I saw a small boat approaching in the distant waters, and a man in purple robe stood on the bow of the boat. It's him. Kata Curry frowned. During the celebration of the Battle of the Isles, I smiled against Whitebeard, and also showed great strength, so everyone present had an impression of this person. This guy dared to shoot us again and again. Beasta pressed his palm on the long sword, and his tone became extremely cold. After this guy gets closer, beat him up first. Joe said angrily. Forget the provocation last time, but still dare to provocation this time. If you don't teach the other party a little lesson, who will look at the Whitebeard pirates in the future? Yes. Everyone nodded. In the discussion of several people, Yi Xiao had already driven the ship to the front of the mobile. He seemed to know his behavior was rude, so he bowed slightly. I am very sorry for what I did just now, but this is what I did only if I had to. What do you guys want to do? Do you want to fight our Whitebeard pirates? Marco stood up, his tone extremely cold. Everyone misunderstood. Advertisement. A smile hurriedly shook his head, and there was a touch of seriousness on his face. I don't want to be an enemy of the Whitebeard pirates, but I want to join the Whitebeard pirates and become one of you. The words fell silent, and the audience fell silent. Marco and others, who were still aggressive, looked stagnant, and stayed where they were. They were dumbfounded. I thought it was just for trouble. But who would have thought that the other party would say such a sentence? Ace, this Uncle Quan said he wants to join Uncle Whitebeard's fleet. Even Luffy, who lacks a rib, is a little confused. Hello. What the hell do you guys want to do? If you really want to join us, why, good money, shot at us. Ace regained his senses and asked a little puzzled. I said, what happened just now was just a matter of fact. My boat can't catch up with the Moby Dick at all, because I want to talk to you, so I made the best plan. Explained with a smile. Everyone looked at each other when they heard this. Goo la la la, are you sure you want to get on my ship? But why? Standing at the very top of the mobile, Whitebeard smiled as if looking down, his tone couldn't tell what emotions were in it. Just to end the dispute in this sea and complete the uncle justice in my heart. Kaido smiled without hesitation. Everyone looked at each other, opened their mouths, and couldn't say a word. Joining the pirates is to achieve justice. Is this definitely a joke? Chapter 142. Zoro debut. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. This guy doesn't have a problem in his head, does he? Ace whispered. It's really not that he smiled deliberately. But these words are incredible. When the pirate is for justice, it sounds weird. There will be no conspiracy, will it? Beasta frowned. Yi Xiao is indeed wanted by Marine, and the reward is as high as 1 billion. But it was a bit weird from beginning to end. As a result, the bounty of a smile is too high. After all, The opponent is just an unknown person. No matter how high the strength is, the bounty will die 2 or 3 billion before causing a huge disaster. Secondly, I laughed at my dad. Originally the two were enemies, but now they want to join the Whitebeard pirates. This made him wonder if this was a conspiracy. For example, it is Marine that laughs, and then Akainu deliberately released a wanted warrant to let the other party join the Whitebeard pirates as a spy. After the war begins, we will fight back again. And it's not just a smile. The same goes for Aokiji. Both are suspected of Marine spies. Father. Marco turned his head and looked. Although he doesn't know the purpose of a smile, no matter what, he believes that his father can solve it and make a decision. Gu 883 la la la. Do you know what to face next on boarding my ship? Whitebeard smiled calmly. Certainly. Kaido, Golden Lion, and Ant are all world overlords, and the combined strength of the three is comparable to the original naval headquarters. Advertisement. But, that's it, I hope to join the Whitebeard pirates. Said with a smile. He knew that after joining the Whitebeard pirates, he would face a shocking battle. In this kind of battle, one may be injured if one is not careful. So what? But, as long as he can change the situation in New World and end this chaotic situation, he is willing to take this risk. Gu la la la. If you want to join, then follow up. Whitebeard laughed. He who has read the original book knows what a smile is like. So it's unlikely that the other party is Marine's undercover agent. If it is not, then there is no need to worry about it. Father, will this? Beasta was a little worried. After all, the war is imminent, and it is a bit risky to let a stranger join the ABFA, Whitebeard pirates. Don't worry so much. Whitebeard waved his hand indifferently. Continue sailing. Yes. A group of captains responded in a sudden. A huge ship set sail again and headed towards Wano-Kuni. All parties in the New World are also silently observing, preparing to witness the outbreak of this shocking battle. A small island in New World. A man with blonde hair and a green hair stood on the shore, looking bored at the endless sea. The blonde man was wearing a suit with curly eyebrows. The green-haired man wore a samurai robe and had a scar in his eyes. Will the Whitebeard pirates really pass by here? Zoro waited for a long time without finding the ship, and finally couldn't help asking. I don't know, but this is the only place to go to Wano-Kuni, and it is reasonable to pass by here. Advertisement. Sanji frowned. Humph. I knew I would go to Wano-Kuni with Hawkeye, instead of waiting here with you as an idiot. Zoro snorted. What are you talking about, Chlorophyta? When Sanji heard it, he was directly angry. It turned out that after being hit by a big bear, the two flew to different places. In addition, during the celebration of the Battle of the Isles, he was also summoned by Luffy, requesting a rendezvous in 2 years. After the two were summoned, they began to train hard. But some time ago, I just heard the news that Whitebeard was going to attack Kaido. After learning that Luffy would also participate in the war, the group of Straw Hat pirates couldn't help it anymore and prepared to rendezvous in advance. According to their words, the captain is adventurous, how can they ignore it as a crew member? So after contacting many parties, a group of people gathered on this small island. Ready to wait here for the arrival of the Whitebeard pirates. You said Luffy, did they leave long ago? Zoro asked suddenly. Sanji was taken aback. The reason why Whitebeard went to Wano-Kuni was to help Katakuri rescue his brothers and sisters. The execution time of Bree and others was 2 days later. Calculated by time, the Whitebeard pirate group might have already left. You idiot. Zoro snorted, knowing the result. What should I do now? Sanji didn't care about Zoro scolding himself. If the Whitebeard pirates have really left, it will be difficult for them to catch up. Notify Nami them immediately and set off. Since Whitebeard wants to attack the Kaido trio, he must land in Wano-Kuni. It will not be too late to find Luffy in Wano-Kuni. Advertisement. Zoro said condensedly. Idiot, how can it be so simple? It's not close to Wano-Kuni, because our boat can't get there quickly. Sanji snorted coldly. Large ships and small boats can travel at different speeds. The big ship can withstand all kinds of wind and waves, and their current ship is not even half of 1,000 sunny, how can it quickly withstand the destination? Then what do you say? Zoro was a little angry. It doesn't matter, go find Nami and the others first. Sanji couldn't think of a good way. You are Luffy's companions, if you want to go to Wano-Kuni, you can get on my boat. At this moment, a voice came. The two turned their heads and looked, and found a huge ship docked not far away, and there was a proud woman standing on the bow. That's Shichibukai's. Zoro was taken aback. What a beautiful woman. A red heart appeared in Sanji's eyes, and his whole body froze in place. Empress. Hurry up and inform your companions and set sail right away, otherwise you will not be able to catch up with the battle. Hancock raised his chin slightly and said proudly. Laughter Kappa quickly wake up and go and inform Nami of them. Zoro nodded, then ran in one direction. Asshole. Hearing Zoro scolding himself, Sanji woke up, but when he saw the direction Zoro was running, he suddenly yelled. You fool, the town is in another direction. Zoro froze for a moment, and then hurriedly turned. But as I walked, the road went crooked again. Seeing this headache, Sanji could only let Zoro stay here and inform Nami himself. Chapter 143. The Reunion of Ayu and Ace. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. A group of Straw Hat pirates boarded the ship. Prepare to take the Hancock ship to Wano-Kuni to participate in this battle. And Whitebeard and others who had already left, after more than a day of sailing, also came to the sea not far from Wano-Kuni. But there was no defense around Wano-Kuni. The Kaido Three didn't seem to know that they had arrived. Want us to land on the island? Joes frowned. They came to Wano-Kuni without any concealment, let alone the Kaido trio. Even the other forces of New World are watching the every move of the Whitebeard pirates. Now there is no defense force in the waters around Wano-Kuni. There is only one possibility. It is Kaido that concentrates power on the island. Hey, they are not idiots, they know that the sea is Daddy's territory. Marco sneered. Kaido and the Ants men are mostly capable people. If you dare to fight with the Whitebeard pirates, your dad only needs to cause tsunamis to destroy most of the opponent's power. Knowing this, Kaido and others would naturally not fight on the sea. Old man Whitebeard, shall we go to the island like this? Crocodile said solemnly with his cigar in his mouth. Whitebeard didn't answer immediately. It is conceivable that Kaido and others must have deployed a large number of troops on the island, and it is indeed irrational to enter rashly. Father, let me explore Wano-Kuni's situation first. And I also want to take this opportunity to meet with acquaintances and complete the agreement. At this moment, Ace stood up with a flash of memory in his eyes. Will this be too risky? Advertisement. Beasta frowned. A large number of troops were deployed in Wano-Kuni, and Ace went alone and was easy to spot. Ace, I'll go with you. Luffy said with excitement. You better stay here. Ace directly rejected Luffy's request, and then looked at Whitebeard. Father, I am familiar with this place. I can make sure that my whereabouts are not exposed. Goo la la la. Wano-Kuni is not a place you can go anywhere. Whitebeard directly refused. But Daddy. Ace opened his mouth. But before finishing speaking, Whitebeard interrupted. If you really want to search for information, then I, the captain, will go personally. Father. No. Marco hurriedly objected. Dad is the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, and is the core of everyone. If Kaido finds out, it will be troublesome. Goo la la la. Don't worry, even if someone finds out, no one can stop me if I want to leave. Whitebeard laughed. He may not be able to fight the alliance of the Kaido trio. But if you want to leave, even if the Kaido trio add all the combat power under the banner, you can't keep him. That's it. And I haven't been here for a long time. Whitebeard looked at the island in front of him, and his eyes flashed with emotion. Speaking, he jumped off the mobile and jumped onto a small boat. Seeing this, Ace hurriedly followed, then grabbed the oars and walked away slowly with Whitebeard. Father. Marco had a headache. Advertisement. Unexpectedly, apart from Ace, his father is also so headstrong. Uncle Whitebeard, Ace, take me. Luffy looked worried. You better stay here, Sombrero. Crocodile snorted. He knew how impulsive Luffy was. If he took Luffy, the result would definitely be that the three of them were discovered by Kaido. Damn it. Luffy's mouth was slumped and unwilling. Now I can only wait here, wait until Dad and Ace bring back the news, and then go to the island. Joes said solemnly. The captains withdrew their gazes upon hearing this, and waited quietly on the boat. Ace rowed a small boat to land on the island. Looking at this familiar and unfamiliar beach in front of me, I couldn't help sighing. I'm finally here again, Julie. Speaking and looking at Whitebeard. Father, I know someone in Wano-Kuni, so go there first. Whitebeard did not object. Father, come with me. Ace hid the boat, then jumped up and rushed towards the bamboo forest. The two quickly passed through the bamboo forest and came to a village that had been turned into ruins. There was a giant tree in the middle of the village. Zero seeking flowers, zero. And under the giant tree is a dilapidated house. Seeing this house, Ace stopped, and the lovely face appeared in his mind inexplicably. Thinking of this, he jumped up and rushed away quickly. Came to the roof of the house in hiding, and then looked into the house through the broken hole. But it was found that there was no one in the house, as if it had been abandoned long ago. Advertisement. Not here. Ace frowned, but soon thought of another place. Did you go there? He rushed again and came to a stream in the bamboo forest. There was a girl with purple hair squatting by the stream. The little girl was sipping the stream with pain on her face. Xiao Yu. Seeing this girl, Ace couldn't help shouting anymore. Ayu, who was drinking the stream, was taken aback, her cute little face lifted, and she looked in the direction of the sound with a trace of panic. Then she saw the person she had always wanted to meet. Ace. Ayu froze in place, her cute little face was full of disbelief, and she wiped her eyes at the same time. When I found that Ace was really standing behind him. The body began to tremble, tears gushing from his eyes, and then the wine fell. Ace, you are finally back. She rushed away crying and plunged into Ace's arms, her voice choked. I have been waiting here for a long time, and I'm so behaved, I haven't left here, because I believe Ace will definitely come back. I am back. Ace smiled brightly and lifted Ayu up high. This time, my father will completely change this country, so that all the people in this country will no longer experience what they are today. Father. Ayu raised his head, and doubts flashed in his eyes. Then he found a tall man standing behind Ace. The man is wearing a coat and cloak, has a crescent beard, and a big knife in his hand. Whitebeard didn't look at Ayu. But looking at the stream in front of him, his tone became extremely low. Kaido, have you made Odin's country like this? Really? Unforgivable. And, Chapter 144, The Founding of Wano Kuni. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. No, we must act. On the Moby Dick, Azang couldn't help standing up after waiting for a long time. At the same time, he looked at Marco. Although there is information from the old man's investigation, we can't sit here. Oh, many captains have heard this. Then what do you think? Marco said solemnly. He knows that Azang is Wano Kuni, and he must say that he wants to use his identity to do something. Everyone knows that I used to be the vassal of Wano Kuni's curry master Odin, so I know many of Wano Kuni's samurai. Although Lord Odin has passed away long ago, the samurai who were loyal to Lord Odin are still alive and waiting for Wano Kuni to start the country. So I want to fight for this. 83. Power to enhance our strength. To hide the deep voice. Although after leaving Wano Kuni, he stayed in the Whitebeard pirates and never returned to his hometown. But he had heard of some things about Wano Kuni. The reason why he didn't return to this country was because he was waiting for the prophecy of the Lord. But with his own father crusade against Kaido, it made him feel that the time for Wano Kuni to found a country had come. Now that the time is right, the samurai naturally don't need to keep hiding, let alone wait for the prediction. Azang, this war is extremely dangerous, are you sure you want to do this? Marco whispered. He also knew something about Wano Kuni. Understand that once the warriors of Wano Kuni participate in this battle, it will be a hard fight. Advertisement. It's okay if you win. But if he loses, Wano Kuni will be in a state of unrest. If it were Odin-sama, he would also make this choice. Azang closed his eyes. Good. Then I will go to the island with you and look for the samurai. Marco nodded. Please bring the old man with you. Although the old man is blind, his strength can still help a little. Then he smiled. Marco looked over and nodded after seeing a serious smile on his face. The three of them quickly prepared the boat, got on and waved to the other captains, and then drove away. Azang, if we want to find the warriors of Wano Kuni, where should we start? Marco asked. I don't know much about Wano Kuni's current situation. But Wano Kuni is divided into Juli, Zaime, Flower City, Lingo, Miantajing, and Baiwu. 9 Mile is the fief of Lord Odin, so those warriors who have been loyal to Lord Odin must still have someone in 9 Mile. As long as we find one of them, we can contact the others. Izo said calmly. He knew that Wano Kuni's samurai were all waiting for the adult's prophecy. Since we are waiting, there must be some contact. As long as they take advantage of this feature, they can summon all the samurai. That being said, Wano Kuni is Kaido's site, and we can't look for it in a big way. Marco frowned. Advertisement. Uncertain. He smiled and said suddenly, since Kaido didn't deploy power in the surrounding waters, it must have shrunk his forces. Perhaps most of Wano Kuni has been abandoned by Kaido. When the words fell, Marco and Azang were taken aback. After thinking about it carefully, I found that this is really possible. Although Wano Kuni is not large, it is not small, and it is divided into several regions. If Kaido really wants to fight a decisive battle, it will definitely summon all the defensive forces from all over the place. In this way, except for the core area, the defense in other places is probably extremely weak. I ignored it. If that's the case, then hurry up to the island, and at the same time inform the old man, while looking for the samurai of Wano Kuni. Marco said. After talking about quickly rowing the boat industry, it disappeared from people's sight. Compile Lee Village. The reunited Ace and Ayu were not happy for long. Because the stream is poisonous, Ayu, who is just over 6 years old, can't bear the toxin at all. The outbreak of toxins made Ayu collapse on the ground, her face becoming extremely ugly. Xiao Yu. Ace looked eagerly. Zero. The stream is poisonous, take her to treatment. Whitebeard said solemnly. Damn it, forgot about it. Ace hurriedly picked up Ayu, and then rushed towards Leakage Town with Whitebeard. The two soon came to the town of Leakage. Advertisement. However, the streets of the town were empty and there was no slightest anger. It turned out that Kaido issued an evacuation order a day ago, evacuating all real fighters and capable players from various regions to the Island of Ghosts, leaving only a few little ones to take care of Julie. At the same time, They are worried that the people will take the opportunity to cause chaos after the capable people leave. So Kaido and Orochi deliberately spread the rumors that the world's most evil pirate group is going to attack Wano Kuni and kill everyone in Wano Kuni. If you want to survive, hide at home. Wano Kuni has been locking the country all the time. The people didn't know the truth or not, and they were so scared that they hid at home and did not dare to go out. So there was a scene before me. Coming. People in strange costumes, are they the evil pirates that the snake said? Look at that person, is he holding Ayu? What happened to Ayu? Could it be that he was killed by an evil pirate? It's terrible, the pirate is here to kill us all. The two Whitebeards had just stepped into the leak detection town, and the people hiding in the house found them. Their yellow and thin faces were full of fear. Master Odin, the former 5.0 captain and elder brother, Master Whitebeard. Is it finally here? Secretly, a fat female ninja wearing a pink ninja suit was secretly watching Whitebeard, her eyes full of excitement. Her name is Anan, Kazuki Odin's retainer. Since Odin's death, he has been hiding in Wano Kuni, waiting for 20 years. However, as the news of Whitebeard's crusade against Kaido spread, the retainers who had been loyal to Odin acted. Prepare to test whether Whitebeard has the strength to fight Kaido and Orochi. If not, they continue to hide. But if there is, then Wano Kuni's samurai will participate in this war, end the sorrow of this country, and let Wano Kuni start the country. Chapter 145. The Chisao 9 Heroes. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Xiao Yu. At this moment, a loud roar came from a distance. When the two looked up, they saw a man with a long nose, red mask and wings behind him rushing forward. But before he rushed to the two of them, he stopped. Then looking at Ace, his face was shocked. It's been a long time, Uncle Fei Che. Ace smiled brightly. Master, Ace is back. Ayu raised his head with difficulty, a strong smile appeared on his face. Are you really back? Fei Che woke up in shock, a little unbelievable. Although Ace said before, he will return to this country and let everyone in this country eat. But no one knows whether this is true or not. Certainly. I haven't forgotten the agreement that day. Ace chuckled, then suddenly remembered something, and hurriedly looked at Whitebeard on the side. This is my O1's dad, Whitebeard. Whitebeard. Tiangashan took a look, then his expression changed. Let's leave here first, and I will tell you what happened to Wano Kuni later. Said to take Ayu, turned and left. The three people quickly came to a small house. Ayu also took medicine and slowly recovered. Uncle Fitch, what happened to Wano Kuni? Ace couldn't wait to ask. It's Kaido and Orochi. Tiangashan Fatu sighed deeply. One day ago, Orochi and Kaido issued an evacuation order to evacuate all the black magic users. At the same time, they informed us that the most evil Whitebeard pirate group in the world is about to attack Wano Kuni and bring Wano Kuni away. All the people. Advertisement. All the people were killed. The people didn't know the truth of the matter, so they kept hiding in the house. Brother Ace is not a bad guy. Ayu shouted angrily. Goo la la la. No wonder so that kid Kaido has shrunk all his strength. Whitebeard smiled calmly. He knows that the so-called witchcraft users are the capable ones. However, Wano Kuni has always practiced lock-in of the country. Many people don't know devil fruit, they just think it's magic. That kid Kaido. Tiangashan trembled all over. Kaido has a terrible name in Wano Kuni, and it is the existence that even the General Serpent fears. It was the first time he saw Kaido as a kid. Don't be afraid, Dad is the strongest person in the world. The big name Kazuki Odin of Julie was the captain on Dad's boat. This time Dad came to Wano Kuni to fight Kaido. Ace chuckled. What? Crusade Kaido. Tiangashan Fei Che heard this almost screaming scream, and he stood up with a squeak, and looked at Whitebeard with horror on his face. He is not the 9 heroes, Wano Kuni has been locking the country all the time. So I don't know everything outside. In the eyes of Wano Kuni people, Kaido is the strongest existence in the world. It is also for this reason that the people will listen to the rumors that the Whitebeard pirates is the most evil pirates in the world and come to Wano Kuni to kill everyone in Wano Kuni. Is Uncle Whitebeard better than Kaido? Ayu asked curiously. Ha 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 ha. Of course, Dad is known as the king of the world. The reason Kaido recalls those magic users is because he is afraid of Dad's crusade. Advertisement. Xiao Yu, remember, Dad is the strongest person in the world, no one can beat him. Ace touched Ayu's head and laughed. Impressive. Ayu looked at Whitebeard with admiration, then shook her fist. After I become a fascinating ninja, can I join the Whitebeard pirates? Of course. Ace nodded without hesitation. Very good. Ayu raised her hand and cheered loudly, and the silver bell-like laughter spread throughout the house. The king of the world, the man who frightened Kaido and flinched. Compared to Ayu's innocence, Tiangashan Faish knew the meaning of these words, and his gaze at Whitebeard was full of shock. Baloo. Just then, the phone worm on Whitebeard's body rang. Whitebeard took out the phone worm and found that it was Marco's message, so he quickly connected. Father, Where are you now? Azang and I have landed on the island with a smile, and are going to look for Odin's retainers and let them join our team. Marco's voice came. Odin's retainer. Whitebeard thought of the Scarlet Sword 9 heroes. Among them, Jinwyman, Conjuro and others have not traveled through time and space, and the cats and dogs do not know whether they are in Zhao. But apart from these few people, Kawamatsu, Ashura Boy and Denjiro are in Wano-kuni. And these 3 are still the strongest 3 of the 9. If you can join this crusade, it can really help. Thinking of this, Whitebeard said to the phone worm, I'm currently in Leakage Town, you can come here to find me. Leakage Town. Advertisement. Marco was taken aback. Although I've been to Wano-kuni before, I didn't find it at that time. But he didn't think too much. Since it is a small town in 883, Julie, it must be easy to find. After speaking, hang up the phone worm. In just 20 minutes, the 3 of Marco had arrived. Azang, tell me what you think. Whitebeard said. Father, although Lord Odin has passed away, there are still many powerful retainers who are still active in Wano-kuni. So I want to gather these people and join us. To hide the deep voice. Then how should we convene? Whitebeard did not refuse. I haven't returned to Wano-kuni for a long time, so I don't know where those people are, but I don't think Kaido will let them go easily, so just go to the prison and maybe find one of them. Yizang calmly analyzed. In that case, go to the excavation site in Beluo Town or Rabbit Well first. Ace suggested. He has been here before and knows the situation in this country very well. Knowing that I want to find a prisoner, I can only look for it from these 2 places. Gu la la la. Then get started. Whitebeard nodded. Azang, he is back, and the Whitebeard pirates are also looking for us. Aaron, who had been hiding in the dark, was full of excitement. Then quietly disappeared, preparing to inform Judy and Juan of this matter. 30%. Chapter 146. Whitebeard is here. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Beluo Town. This was originally Kaido's base in Julie. There were not only more than 30 fake demon fruit power, but also 2 real players. However, as Kaido shrinks his forces, there are only a few small pieces left in the entire Beluo Town. Why should we stay here? Yeah, if Whitebeard calls, what shall we do? There is no way, this is the governor's order, so even if it is dangerous, we can only continue. The guards guarding Beluo Town complained. They are not the fools of Wano-kuni, and they have not even heard of the name Whitebeard. As Kaido's subordinates, they know the horror of Whitebeard best. Known as the king of the world, they are feared by their bosses. If Whitebeard arrives here, they will probably only have a dead end. Don't talk nonsense, how could Whitebeard come here? The only capable person shouted. The capital of Wano-kuni is the capital of flowers, not Guri. So in his opinion, even if Whitebeard arrives at Wano-kuni, he will go to the flower city instead of the Beluo Town in 9 miles. As this Beluo Town, at the moment when the words of the capable person fell, an abrupt voice sounded. The people guarding the door looked around. Then I saw 2 figures appearing at the end of the street. One of them had a pineapple head and put his hands in kabuto. The words just now came from this population. This is this. Marco, the captain of the Whitebeard pirates. A guard screamed, with fear on his face. Why did Captain Whitebeard come here? But this question hasn't waited for people to reply. Everyone saw another figure. This one is wearing a coat, has a white beard with a crescent moon, and a big knife in his hand. Advertisement. Whitebeard. The people present murmured, their bodies froze in place. It took a long time before he recovered. Fear rushed from his heart to his brain. His sluggish face changed drastically in an instant, and then he screamed in horror. Whitebeard is Whitebeard. The man who claims to be the strongest in the world and has the title of King of the World is here. Run, run. The guards screamed in horror, running around like headless flies. One. Some were timid, even paralyzed on the ground in fright, and could no longer stand up. Gu la la la. It seems that Kaido Kid really shrank all his power. Whitebeard only glanced at it and saw the reality of the town. Father, leave these people to me. Marco rushed away quickly. Halfway through the rush, he soared into the sky, the blue flame lit his arms, and then fell straight down again. Boom. There was a loud roar. With a scream, the town's guard flew out. These people are all weak people abandoned by Kaido, how imaginable they are, they can't withstand Marco's blow at all. Solve all the guards, Marco quickly searched for them. But after searching for a long time, I couldn't find the samurai whom Azang said. Father, there are no warriors in the town. Even if there are prisoners, they are other prisoners of Wano-kuni. Marco reports. Whitebeard nodded without any accident. Advertisement. He who has read the original book knows where the Ashura boy is. One is in the rabbit well, one is working as an undercover agent in front of the big snake, and the other is working as a robber. He didn't come to Beluo Town to find the samurai either. But to disintegrate this place. After all, Wano-kuni is the country of Odin. Since it is here, we should handle all the affairs of this country and at the same time uproot the power of Kaido. Father, shall we go meet Ace and the others? Marco asked. Gang O's soldiers were divided into two groups. They came to Beluo town, while Ace and Azang went to Tujing. But before leaving, collect the food in the town, and then give it to Ayu and the others. Whitebeard said solemnly. Clear. Marco left immediately. Collect all the food in the town, put it on a carriage, and leave. Whitebeard is finally here. In a dark place, Judianwan's eyes flickered. Since getting the news that Whitebeard is going to crusade Kaido, he has been waiting for Whitebeard's arrival in Julie. There was news from Shinobu just now that Whitebeard had arrived. So he ran over without any hesitation. How to test? I can't help asking the side. How can you try, stop them, and see their strength? Shutenmaru or Ashura boy said solemnly. Although he knew that Whitebeard was very strong, he would never join the crusade team without a test. Because he attacked Kaido 8 years ago. But in the end it failed, leading to the death of a large number of warriors. Advertisement. So this time he had to be cautious. After speaking, he jumped up and rushed at the speed of ultimate, with a burst of air-breaking sound. Quote. Daddy. Marco whispered and looked around vigilantly. Goo la la la, are there any mice? Or Odin's retainers showed up. Whitebeard smiled calmly while sitting in the carriage. At the moment the words fell, a figure flashed by and then intercepted in front of him. Dingqing took a look and found that it was a samurai holding a long sword. Can the two of you hand over the food on the carriage? Ashura boy swaggered in front of the two of them, and said flatly. Good money. Naturally, his goal is not food, but a reason to take action. Goo la la la, are Odin's retainers as stupid as you? Whitebeard laughed. The Ashura boy, who had a calm face, stopped for a moment. He looked at Whitebeard in disbelief, wondering how Whitebeard recognized himself. Of those retainers around Odin back then, you were among them. Whitebeard laughed. Ashura boy twitched his mouth, his face was full of embarrassment. He did meet Whitebeard when he was young. But that was 20 years old. I thought that Whitebeard had forgotten himself, but he didn't expect to reveal his identity in one bite. This is just great. Let him wonder whether he should test or not for a while. Chapter 147. The decisive battle begins. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Goo la la la, let's talk. What do you want to do when you come here? To join the crusade team, or to be an enemy of me? Whitebeard smiled calmly. As the retainer of Lord Odin, how can I turn to Kaido? Ashura boy said loudly. Then what do you want to do? Marco couldn't help asking. Although Kaido has a big hatred with me, I have to admit his strength. So I have only one purpose here, and that is to confirm whether the Whitebeard pirate group has the strength to defeat Kaido. Ashura boy simply stated his purpose. Punishment. So you are doubting the strength of the old man. Marco sneered, and then said with a relaxed face, Daddy is known to be the strongest in the world. What do you think is the reason why Kaido unites the ant and golden lion? Because of what? The Ashura boy was taken aback. It's because Kaido is afraid of Dad. He knows that he is not Dad's opponent at all, so he unites with other 4 emperors. Marco said seriously. Ashura frowned. 883 thought for a while and found that it was really like this. If Kaido is not afraid of Whitebeard, then why do you want to make an alliance with others, and at the same time give up Wanokuni's base camp and shrink your troops to the island of ghosts? But soon, he shook his head again. Beast's pirates may not be the opponent of the Whitebeard pirates, but after uniting the Ant pirates and the Golden Lion pirates, that is not necessarily the case. Goo la la la, if you want to avenge the patriarch, you can't look forward and backward like you. Whitebeard smiled calmly. Advertisement. We have failed once, so we must not fail this time. Ashura boy gritted his teeth. 8 years ago, he led a samurai against Kaido, but he was defeated. If it still fails this time, with the loss of power, I am afraid that it will never succeed again, so I have to be cautious. If you are not qualified to challenge Dad with your strength, let me be your opponent. Marco took a step forward. But before he took the shot, he was blocked by Whitebeard. Goo la la la, although he is afraid of the head and tail, but it is also considered to be intentional, so I will meet your requirements. Whitebeard raised his arm sideways. Then, under Ashura boy's gaze, he hit the air hard. Coming. Ashura boy clenched the long sword tightly, his eyes became fierce. Whitebeard is the captain and elder brother of Lord Odin. He is absolutely powerful. If I can't defeat me within 10 strokes, it is impossible to defeat Kaido. Speaking of this, the long sword strenuously cut down. Stabbed. The bright sword light rushed out like a galaxy, as if to tear the world apart. Under the gazes of Marco and Nin, the force of the vibration slammed into the earth-shaking slash. Boom. A dull loud noise echoed. Then, slash, shattered. Ashura boy's full blow was crushed to pieces by just touching the shock wave. The shock from the horror to ultimate continued to spread and slammed into it fiercely. How can it be? Ah Nin's face changed drastically. She knows how strong the Ashura boy is, and she is one of the top 3 among the 9 heroes. Advertisement. Unexpectedly, a full blow would be crushed like this. But, she reacted quickly. Remember what Whitebeard called King of the World. This is a name that even Roger has never had before. I understand that it is not that Ashura is too weak, but that Whitebeard is too strong. It's so strong that even if the Ashura boy uses his full strength, he can't interfere with Whitebeard. Boom. The shock wave blasted fiercely. Ashura Tong ABFA had her eyes shrunk into needles, and quickly raised her sword to block it. However, as soon as the long sword touched the shock wave, the thought that he could not resist appeared in his mind, and then he was blown out. Boom. Dull sound. Hengfei's body hit the building, and the building collapsed, and smoke billowed. After a while, the smoke dissipated. The Ashura boy struggling to get up, half kneeling on the ground. His face was no longer the fierceness he had before, but was full of shock and disbelief, and the corners of his mouth were even more brimming with blood. This is the strength of the king of the world. The Ashura boy was shocked. I thought that with his own strength, even if he was not an opponent of Whitebeard, he could resist about 10 moves. But who would have thought that Whitebeard hurt himself with just one blow? With such a powerful strength, even Kaido is not an opponent. He whispered in shock. Finally understood why Whitebeard dared to attack Kaido. I also understand why Kaido has to shrink his strength after joining the Ant and Golden Lion. Advertisement. It turns out that Kaido is not cautious, but pure fear. Goo la la la. Do you think I have the strength to fight Kaido now? Whitebeard smiled calmly, as if hurting the Ashura boy, just a trivial matter. It's abrupt. Ashura boy lowered his head, and then hurriedly said, now I will contact the other samurai in Wano Kuni to join in this crusade. He understands that this opportunity is rare in a lifetime. If successful, the founding of the country that Master Odin has been waiting for may be achieved. Having said that, he bid farewell to Whitebeard. Ready to gather people with lofty ideals who resist Kaido and Orochi. Let's go, meet Ace and the others. Whitebeard looked back. Clear. Marco nodded and drove away. The two quickly returned to the town of Leakage and gave the food to Ayu and Tiangashan Faish. The two of them were naturally very happy to see so much food. At the same time, the food was distributed to other people in the town. At this time, people knew that Whitebeard was not to slaughter Wano Kuni, but to crusade Kaido and General Orochi. People who know the truth no longer fear, and even want to join the crusade. But by this time Whitebeard had already left. When Whitebeard came to the rabbit well, he learned that Ace had found Kawamatsu, and with the power gathered by the Ashura boys, he barely formed a team with good combat effectiveness. Goo la la la. Since Wano Kuni's power is concentrated here, let's go to the Ghost Island. Whitebeard laughed. When everyone heard this, their hearts shook, and they knew that the decisive battle was about to begin. Chapter 148. Recover Aokiji's broken leg. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Ghost Island. A huge ship docked around the island. The ship was full of people, and the artillery had been filled. Gahahaha. The current power of the Ghost Island is comparable to naval headquarters. If the master can be in the hands of one person, it can subvert the entire world. Golden Lion looked at the giant ship around. A flash of fire flashed in his eyes, and then looked at Kaido and the ant on the side. Old lady, Kaido, do you want to join my Golden Lion pirate group after this war? I will lead you to dominate the whole world. Mom, I have no interest in tying the world over fun. The ant refused without hesitation. Although she is 4 emperors, she really has no interest in ruling the world. Her only dream is to build a world with all races. Let's talk about winning this war first. Kaido snorted coldly. That's a shame. The Golden Lion laughed. But that being said, I made up my mind, and after defeating Whitebeard, I would immediately attack Kaido or the ant, and then seize the foundation of the two. At that time, the Golden Lion pirate group, which integrates the foundation of the 4 emperors, will become the strongest in the world. Is Newgate not here yet? Ant can't wait any longer. Governor, the Whitebeard pirates have arrived in Julie and landed on the island. At this moment, a panicked voice came, and only a zone-capable person running from a distance. Come yet. The Kaido 3 glanced at each other and immediately ordered, get everyone ready, the battle is about to begin. Advertisement. Yes. The capable person quickly retreated. The group of people continued to wait on the island of ghosts. 1 minute, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. After a full half an hour, the capable person just rushed over again, with a look of panic on his face. Governor, here comes Whitebeard. The words were extremely loud and spread all over the surrounding area. The people who were still nervous at first suddenly became excited, all eyes widened. Whitebeard is here. That man who claims to be the strongest in the world and has the title of King of the World. Finally arrived at the ghost island of Wano Kuni. The solemn atmosphere swept around like a storm. Kaido, Ant, Golden Lion, General Star, 3 plagues. Everyone here has a solemn color on their faces, and their hearts are beating violently inexplicably. That man is finally here. The strongest in the world, surpassing the existence of One Piece Roger. There is no concealment, no tricks, just go straight to the Ghost Island like this. The crew of the three parties held the guns tightly, as if only in this way could they bring a sense of security to themselves. Gahahaha. It's really Whitebeard, I'm afraid he is the only one who has the guts in the world today. The Golden Lion laughed wildly, his tone full of admiration. Humph. It's really arrogant. Facing the union of the three of us, we still dare to fight a frontal war. Kaido snorted coldly, his face a little ugly. Advertisement. Mom. Let everyone get ready. There was no smile on the aunt's face, but it was full of dignity. For some reason, she always had a bad premonition in her heart, as if the Whitebeard pirates had the power to fight against the trio. Stop chattering. Kaido snorted coldly, but still waved his arm. When everyone saw this, they immediately raised their guns, and as soon as the Whitebeard pirates approached, they would immediately attack. On the endless sea, a huge ship sailed through the waves, splashing countless sprays. The war is about to begin. Yes, this time we must rescue Katakuri's brothers and sisters so that he will never have any worries. It's unforgivable that the ant used this method to force Katakuri. Not only that, but we have to let everyone know what happened to the Whitebeard pirates who offended us. Defeat the Kaido alliance, so that our Whitebeard pirates can become the strongest in the world. Facing the coming war, the crew members were not afraid, but excited, and discussed the next war one by one. Goo la la la. After this war, there may be no 4 emperors in New World. 0 seeking flowers, 0. Whitebeard sat down and laughed. This time the Whitebeard pirates mobilized all their forces. High-end combat power is even more numerous. There is a smile, Aokiji, Wable, Marco, Ace, Jose, Beasta, Katakuri, Jinbei, Rider, World, Crocodile, Evil King and others. In addition to other captains, Supernova, Shirahoshi and Wanokuni Samurai. Therefore, the current Whitebeard pirates, regardless of high-end combat power or overall strength, are far stronger than the Kaido alliance. Advertisement. Are there no more 4 emperors? Aokiji was in a trance. When he was Marine Admiral, all Marines had no choice but to take 4 emperors. But now it's only a few months, and the 4 emperors who once dominated New World may disappear, which makes him feel like things are impermanent. Boy Aokiji, if this battle can be won, I will help you recover your left leg. Whitebeard glanced. He also has a physical recovery card in his hand. Although this card can't restore peak state, change birth, old age, sickness and death, it can heal physical trauma and regenerate broken limbs. It is most suitable for Aokiji with broken legs. Aokiji was taken aback. Get ready for this battle. Whitebeard said nothing more. He didn't doubt whether Aokiji was an undercover agent. Because he said that as long as he was on the Moby Dick, he didn't care about the other party's past and identity. The reason why I didn't give the card to Aokiji was because the card involved human feelings. After all, many people on the ship lack arms and legs. If you give the card to Aokiji, who just got on the boat and has not done anything, what will the other crew members on the boat think? So Aokiji has to do meritorious service if he wants to get the card. And the credit must be convincing. Aokiji frowned, wondering what Whitebeard meant. But I also understand that Whitebeard will not aimlessly, since that said, there must be a way. Recover my broken leg, Aokiji thought secretly, and there was also an expectation in his heart. And Chapter 149, The King of the World Whitebeard. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The fleet continued to sail. Whitebeard sat in the seat, with an extra card in his hand that only he could see. Since the end of the Battle of Marineford, he has received several cards in total. Monster Body, Experience Copy, Physical Body Recovery. Now the card in his hand is Monster Body. Monster Body, use this card to obtain an undead body like a monster. The war is about to begin, and it's time to use the whole cards in your hand. Whitebeard's eyes flashed. Speaking of crushing the card, a warm current rushed to the whole body. Boom. The terrible aura rose from the body and spread to the surrounding like a raging wave. The originally blue sky suddenly became gloomy, and countless dark clouds condensed to form a huge Uzumaki. Click, click, click. The ship, 883, could not bear this kind of force, and began to shake violently. Cracks spread across the railing. What happened? The captains were taken aback by this change, and then felt a terrifying aura. Their complexion changed drastically, and their breathing became even more rapid. What's the matter with this momentum? Did Kaido do it? Luffy yelled exaggeratedly. Idiot, this is not Kaido and they do it, look at the old man. Ace clutched his forehead. Everyone heard this and looked hurriedly. I saw Whitebeard sitting quietly, but his body was unparalleled. This momentum made everyone present feel depressed. What is going on here? Advertisement. Luo looked wrong, and then couldn't help asking, how can such a terrible breath erupt from the old man? The card can't be calculated. Hawkins frowned. He found that he was using Zonto but was unable to foretell any clues. This was the first time he encountered this kind of thing since he went to sea. I don't know. Marco frowned. I don't know how my dad could break out such a strong breath. This breath has far surpassed before. Could it be that the old man broke through? Keita coolly said coldly. When everyone heard it, their eyes widened, and they realized that it was really possible. If it weren't for a breakthrough, why did the old man's breath become so powerful? The body of a monster. Whitebeard whispered. He is in a very good state now, with endless power on his body, and he can smash the air with just one fist. Of course, this is not the most important. The most important thing is that he can feel every inch of his body's skin contains terrifying vitality. It seems that even if he is hit by a gun, he can recover instantly. Is it immortal? Whitebeard finally understood what the so-called monster body was. It was a body with ultimate vitality, more terrifying than Kaido's immortal body. Papa. At this moment Marco couldn't help but walked over, his eyes full of surprise. Fine. Whitebeard waved his hand, then stood up. Under everyone's gaze, walked to the bow position of the mobile, and clenched his fists at the same time. Raising sideways, his fists fell heavily. Advertisement. Taste. The air burst instantly, and cracks spread rapidly. Under the force of this shaking, the sky-shattering tsunami lifted from a distance, then exploded violently, and fell back into the sea like a heavy rain from the sky. Poseidon passing by this sea area was shocked by the shock wave, and his huge body burst instantly. In just a few moments, the surrounding seas were completely dyed red. Hiss. The people present took a cold breath, their faces full of shock. Seeing the corpse of sea kings floating on the surface, I knew that my father's punch went straight to the deep sea, and even the king of the deep sea who invited to swim under 10,000 meters was crushed and killed. Daddy's strength is getting stronger and stronger. Ace couldn't help but said. Yes. Joe's nodded. Hey, with the current strength of the old man, even if Kaido and the ant join hands, they will not be an opponent. Beasta laughed. Keita Curry did not speak, but the excitement in his eyes could not be concealed. This war started because of him, and now that the old man has this kind of strength, the probability of winning is even greater. Don't worry, Keita Curry, we will definitely rescue your brothers and sisters. Jinbei on the side said solemnly. Keita Curry nodded heavily. Knowing that I will be able to make the final break with the ant soon. Goo la la la, sons, speed up the voyage. Whitebeard retracted his arm and laughed loudly. Yes. A group of captains responded in a sudden. The ship continued to sail, getting closer and closer to the Ghost Island. Advertisement. Ghost Island. Kaido's 3 joint forces are waiting on the island. A giant ship docked in the bay around the island, and the cannon was filled with ammunition. I waited about 20 minutes. A black spot appeared from the sea level, and it got bigger and bigger. It only took a while to appear in front of everyone. Moby Dick. The pirate ship of Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world. Now, finally arrived. Whitebeard is here. The crew member at the front yelled. Hearing this, the others gritted their teeth and stared at the huge ship approaching with their eyes wide open. The pressure in their hearts increased sharply. Although everyone is ready. But when I face Whitebeard, I still feel afraid of 5.0. Because the person on board is Whitebeard. The bounty is as high as 6.5 billion, surpassing Roger, the strongest man known as the king of the world. As the ship approached, a pressure swept the island. Some timid crew members tremble, and their footsteps retreat subconsciously. Then, under the gaze of Kaido, Auntie, General Star, 3 Plagues and others. The Moby Dick stopped a few hundred meters in front of the island. A tall figure with a crooked crescent beard also walked out of the boat and came to the bow position. Ignoring the Kaido Alliance's troops completely, they smashed their swords heavily on the ship's board. Looking straight ahead, he laughed boldly. Goo la la la. Shiki, Linlin, Kaido, are you ready to be my enemy? Chapter 150. Whitebeard vs 4 Emperors. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Goo la la la. Shiki, Linlin, Kaido, are you ready to be my enemy? Ignoring the tripartite coalition forces, ignoring the generals and the 3 Plagues, Whitebeard asked the Kaido 3 directly. The 3 people sitting on the main seat suddenly raised their heads. After seeing the familiar and unfamiliar figure on the ship, he was shocked for a while. Because Whitebeard's posture is too terrifying. Facing the coalition forces of the 4 emperors, there was no fear. Instead, they questioned them boldly whether they were ready for war. It's so proud. Whitebeard. Kaido growled and stood up with a snort. Kaido kid, it seems you have forgotten the pain I left on you. Whitebeard grinned, his eyes became fierce, and his fist slowly raised and crossed his chest. Then when everyone didn't react, 01 smashed down hard. Boom. The terrifying explosion sounded, and the air was directly shattered by a punch, causing cracks. The force of shock swept the quartet, bursting out infinite power. Boom. The sea is rioting. Pulled by this force, waves of water are set off. Loud rumbling noises continued to sound, like thousands of troops attacking the castle, with an indomitable momentum. Wow. The water waves got higher and higher, and finally reached 10,000 feet. Advertisement. The terrifying huge waves shade the sun and darken the island of ghosts. The tripartite coalition forces, who had been shocked by the appearance of Whitebeard, finally woke up at this moment, looking at the huge waves. A look of fear appeared in their eyes. Why are there waves of water on both sides of the ghost island? Asshole, Whitebeard has the shock fruit ability. He used this ability to set off a huge wave, wanting to destroy us in one fell swoop. What should we do now? We can't deal with this kind of huge waves at all. The tripartite crew was horrified. At this moment, panic spread in everyone's mind. They held their heads one by one, perhaps because of fear, their bodies were trembling constantly. One strike. Whitebeard only took one blow. It crushed the fighting spirit of the three-way coalition. In the hearts of some crew members, they left an invincible impression. Is this the strength of the world's strongest man? With just one blow, it caused natural disaster-like destruction, leaving tens of thousands of crew members facing death threats. Cracker sucked in air. This is not the time to talk about this. If Mom and the others don't stop the huge waves, we will all die here. Perospero said in a panic. What is it? If a huge wave can destroy us, then you two underestimate your mother and them. Smokey said coldly, and glanced at the direction where the ant was. Mom, they are 4 emperors, they won't be easily defeated. What a terrible power. Jin whispered from the side of the 3 plagues, shocked eyes flashing in the depths of his eyes. He is a proud man, and the whole world can be recognized by him, only his elder brother Kaido. But after seeing this huge wave, I have to admit that Whitebeard is terrible. If no one stops, the 3-party joint force may be destroyed by Whitebeard. Advertisement. With such strength, I am afraid that no 4 emperors will be an opponent. Quinn whispered and realized that Whitebeard's strength was beyond imagination. Big brother. Jack looked at Kaido in a panic. Gahahaha. It's really Whitebeard. He used this method when he came up. Is it to wipe us all out? The golden lion stood up and laughed wildly. Speaking, he rose into the sky, flew to a no man's place, and then pressed his palm to the ground. Boom. There was a loud roar, and the island of ghosts trembled. Under everyone's shocked eyes, a huge crack penetrated an area of the ghost island, floating like a huge boulder the size of a small island, as if losing gravity. Whitebeard, let me see if your waves can withstand my boulders. The golden lion laughed. With a wave of his arm, a huge boulder like an island rushed out violently. Hit the waves under the shocking eyes of people. Humph. This is Lousy's base camp, but you can't let this old fellow destroy you. Kaido snorted coldly. The body jumped up and instantly turned into a blue dragon. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and the dragon hid in it, and then spit out a terrifying breath, hitting heavily on the huge waves. Boom. 2 thunderous sounds appeared. The boulders and heat hit the huge waves violently, causing a shocking explosion. Countless splashes rushed up, and the whole sea trembled. Finally, with a loud noise, the boulder fell into the sea, the heat disappeared, and the original turbulent waves also turned into heavy rain and disappeared. Advertisement. Successful. It was Governor Kaido and Governor Golden Lion who made the shot. They blocked Whitebeard's blow. Long live Governor Kaido, long live Governor Golden Lion. A group of crew members woke up, their faces showed the joy of life after the disaster, and they yelled frantically. 883 inches Kaido, Golden Lion, do you think that's all there is to it? Whitebeard grinned, his voice resounding through the island. What? Kaido and Golden Lion were taken aback for a moment, and doubts flashed in their eyes. Later, I found that the island of Ghost was trembling violently, and the rumbling sound spread from far to near, alarming everyone. What happened? Everyone looked to both sides in surprise, and then saw a horrible scene. The sea level in the distance is black, and if you look closely, you can find that this is another huge wave. Although the scale of the giant wave is not as large as before, its speed has reached ultimate. Boom. There was a loud noise. When people reacted, the huge waves had already surged around the island. Then under the horrified eyes of the 3 crew members, they slammed into it, destroying everything with a force of destruction. Click, click, click. Countless ships were submerged by huge waves, and as Uzumaki rolled, they shattered directly. The crew on the ship suffered even more immediately. Their bodies fell into the sea and were torn apart by the waves. The scarlet blood stained the surroundings. What? The screams screamed into the sky. The second huge wave appeared when no one expected it. Then bring a huge disaster to the Trilateral Coalition.